grateful to each and all of us the same.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robeanne Williams.
In Nationwide News at this hour, dancehall's biggest star, Vybz Kartel, has his murder conviction overturned in the Privy Council.
Unstoppable, run away train, everything fence, every lane. Here aim for the sky like plane.
The UK-based court says jury misconduct issues in the 2014 trial means the Court of Appeal must decide whether there should be a retrial.
We have team coverage of the judgment, how Kartel fans are reacting, and what dancehall stars are saying.
Opposition spokesman on finance blasts government's budget for falling short of the needs of the Jamaican people.
The people have been feeling the effects of the increases in the cost of living.
Councillors denied right to be sworn in after they refused to take the oath on the Bible.
In news from the rest of the world, Caribbean officials say a plan to find new leadership for Haiti is moving forward.
U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has called for new elections in Israel.
In headline sports, Leon Bailey suspended from the Jamaica national football squad.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, the UK-based Privy Council has overturned Vybz Kartel's 2014 murder conviction and sent the case back to the local Court of Appeal to consider whether a retrial should be held. We'll get reactions from defense attorneys Bert Samuels and John Clark.
In public opinion at 6:26, we ask, what's your reaction to the Privy Council's decision to overturn Vybz Kartel's murder conviction? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90FM.
In the nation's business at 6:40, opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson made his contribution to the budget debate in the House of Representatives today. He credited the PMP on handing the JLP a stable economy in 2016.
The Prime Minister used to say that the PMP is focused on passing the IMF tests, but failing the people's tests. But the passing of those tests handed the JLP an economy which was more stable.
Development economist Dr. Christian Stokes and chartered accountant Dennis Chung will join us.
And at 8, it's Jamaican Dads with Dennis Brooks, Garth Williams, Marlon Campbell, and Floyd Green.
All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, Nationwide Radio, JM.com, and on the Nationwide app, available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Thursday afternoon, it's Thursday, March 14, 2024.
News at 5 is brought to you by the new Crunch Sandwich from KFC. Available in hot and spicy or barbecue for just $600. A finger-licking good deal at KFC.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
And now to the details. The UK-based Privy Council has overturned Vybz Kartel's 2014 murder conviction and sent the case back to the local Court of Appeal to consider whether a retrial shall be held. The Law Lords delivered their ruling on Thursday. It's the latest chapter in the decade-long legal saga. More in this report. The judgment runs for 19 pages. It's unanimous. The 5 judges, Lord Reed, Lord Lloyd-Jones, Lord Briggs, Lord Burrows, and Lady Simler, rested their decision largely on what they described as jury misconduct in the case. They say these issues created material irregularities. The judges say while they have significant sympathy for the dilemma presiding judge Lennox Campbell faced, these irregularities gave rise to a miscarriage of justice in Kartel's case. They cited at least 3 issues of concern with the jury, including an attempted $500,000 bribe being offered to members of the jury by one of their colleagues. The forewoman reported that 11 of the jurors had been offered bribes to free Kartel and the other men. The London-based judges say this bribe
contaminated the jury in the case. They say more should have been done by the judge to investigate the extent of that contamination. The law lords say the direction given by the presiding judge was not sufficient to rectify the situation. The judges say, in any event, directions from a judge could not rectify the damage that had been done to the integrity of the cartel trial. The law lords say the trial should not have continued with the juror who offered the bribe, as he was a source of contamination for the entire jury. Lords Reed, Briggs, Burroughs, Lloyd Jones, and Lady Simler say the jury issues resulted in an infringement of the defendant's right to a fair hearing by an independent and impartial court. The judges say the contamination of the jury pool had spread too far to be overlooked. The judges say the fact that the prosecution may be prepared to waive irregularities in a case does not absolve the court of its responsibility to ensure a fair trial for the accused men. They say in order to maintain public confidence in the administration of justice, it's necessary to do justice to both the prosecution and the defense. The UK-based court says this is also necessary to ensure that the guilty may be convicted and the innocent acquitted. The Privy Council says, having determined that the convictions should be overturned on the basis of jury misconduct, it was not necessary to decide other novel constitutional claims raised in the appeal. In the interest of justice and in keeping with the Judicature Appellate Jurisdiction Act, the court said it would follow its usual practice and send the matter back to the local courts to decide whether a retrial should be ordered. Kartel, whose given name is Adijah Palmer, Sean Campbell, Kahira Jones, and Andre St. John were imprisoned for the 2011 murder of Clive Lizard Williams. Those convictions have now been erased. The men had pegged their hopes on the last-ditch appeal to the court in London. The ruling is a partial victory for the dancehall star, who had been hoping he and his colleagues would have been freed completely. It's left now to be seen if the Jamaican Court of Appeal will determine that the matter should be retried, or if they will set the men free.
Vindicated. That's the reaction of Bert and Bianca Samuels, the father-daughter team of attorneys who represented Sean Storm Campbell in the Privy Council appeal. Norgay Banton has that story.
Campbell is one of 4 men who were convicted for the murder of Clive Lizard Williams in March 2014. He, along with Adijah Vybz Kartel Palmer, Kahira Jones, and Andre Madsus St. John, were sentenced to life in prison. But on Wednesday, the Privy Council ruled that the trial judge infringed on the defendant's right to a fair hearing under the Jamaican Constitution by allowing the tainted juror to remain empaneled. Bianca Samuels is pleased with the ruling, even though she concedes the journey is not over.
It is the best case scenario because there will be remittance to the Court of Appeal for consideration as to whether or not there should be a retrial. It's not what we wanted wholesomely, but we are grateful that justice was served in that the Privy Council found that there was injustice in respect of the jury tampering issue, and we are happy that that was the result of the Court of Appeal. But we have a challenge ahead of us in respect of the retrial issue, and so that's why you're not seeing me jumping up and down at this time, though we are grateful that the conviction was quashed.
Bert Samuels says the team was alarmed that the Jamaican Court of Appeal did not take the juror tampering into consideration.
The reasons for quashing the case in the Privy Council, we argued those very grounds before the Court of Appeal of Jamaica, who turned us away. Therefore, the final Court of Appeal has vindicated and made the efforts that we have made, that we had an arguable case. We were alarmed when the Jamaican Court of Appeal did not take that jury point. And it took another court to say there was a breach of the constitutional rights of Sean Campbell.
He adds that the case should not have advanced to the Privy Council.
We are thinking that this is an instructive judgment. It ought not to have had to go to the Privy Council. It should have been stopped by the trial judge. If not, it should have been stopped by the Jamaican Court of Appeal. And therefore, the men who have been convicted for 10 years, and one day today, the 14th of March, they will live again for a retrial consideration.
Nora Gay Banton for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, the attorney for Andre St. John and Kahira Jones, John Clark, is pleased with the overturned convictions for his clients.
I'm very happy with the fact that the conviction of the appellants were overturned. It was my view that this conviction could not stand because the process that led to the conviction was unfair, and for that reason, bearing in mind the guarantees that we have to all of our citizens, it was a dangerous precedent in relation to what was decided happened on that day by the trial judge and affirmed by our Court of Appeal, and that was a dangerous precedent that could be applied to other citizens.
He says he's not in a rush to set bail applications in motion. Mr. Clark says he's awaiting the determination of the Jamaican Court of Appeal and instructions from his clients.
I have no such instructions at this stage, and I'll have to speak with the client as relates to that. But it is time will tell whether or not that is a process open to these particular appellants. But that will have to be a review of the law will have to be done, and appropriate advice provided. But I would not presume to take that step to apply for bail until the Court of Appeal has made a determination that a retrial is inevitable. Because if the Court of Appeal ultimately decides that there's no retrial, it will mean that a verdict of acquittal will be entered and the appellant will be discharged. And there will be no need for a bail application.
John Clark, attorney for Andre St. John and Kahira Jones. Efforts to get a comment from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution were unsuccessful. A living legend. That's how residents of Waterford in Portmore, St. Catherine are describing dancehall artist Vybz Kartel following the UK Privy Council's decision to overturn his murder conviction. Jubilation erupted in a section of the community referred to as Gaza City, where Kartel grew up when the ruling was handed down on Thursday. Orobian Williams was in Gaza City.
Out the road, me say, Babylon say jail for me. Then the judge say bail for me. Somebody tell the jury.
One world boss, the residents said as they celebrated the ruling. There were screams of excitement. A resident, Michelle, told Nationwide that the decision of the court to uphold the appeal is a victory for the community.
It's victory. I feel so good. I feel so wonderful. God is good. I feel good because I have faith. I always have faith in Him. Yes, good youth. It means a lot because of a lot of people He used to help. A lot of children back to school. God is good and God is able. And I know Him gonna free. At least Him free.
Other residents shared similar sentiments.
The years we are wait. 10, 11 years we are wait. You hear that we are wait. I wonder who I got, who I gonna go on every minute the thing put off, see put on now. Our Addy here.
Free Addy man. I see where this go. It just a be drying out and nothing, I see no evidence. And them live sleep on my road. Them parents, them and him sister and brother. Nah, lie, man, free the man, because they still nothing. Them not find a body, them not tamper with this, and look at the man, them undone, man.
Meanwhile, Kartel's official social media pages have been active. On X, formerly known as Twitter, @Vybz Official reposted the Privy Council's decision with the caption, "Thank you," accompanied by the flag of the United Kingdom. In another post, the caption was a quote from one of his songs. It read, "Long time don't eat a real dinner, #back to life, #freedom street." And on Instagram, supporters flooded the artist's page with praise. Vybz Kartel has been behind bars since September 30, 2011. All eyes are now set on the local Court of Appeal to decide whether there'll be a retrial or if Kartel and his co-accused will indeed make it to Freedom Street. Robian Williams for Nationwide News.
You're listening to Nationwide News at 5. More on the Kartel appeal after the break.
Valley Drug Pharmacy offers curbside pickup and delivery of your branded and generic drugs. WhatsApp your prescription to 876-881-6695. The time by Valley Drug Pharmacy is...
It's 15 minutes after 5.
Welcome Deluxe, the cream cracker that rises to the top. So crisp, so light, so buttery. When you're good, you're just good. Hey, had the national flavor. You go off and buy this pack. So good, it's just so good. Welcome Deluxe, the cream cracker that rises to the top. So crisp, so light, so buttery. National Baking Company, just so good.
Continuing the news, the entertainment fraternity has welcomed the news that the convictions of dancehall artist Vybz Kartel and his co-accused have been overturned. Shalois Michael has that side of the story.
Several dancehall artists are now anticipating that the Court of Appeal will set Vybz Kartel and his 3 co-accused free, following Thursday's ruling from the Privy Council. Dancehall artist Mr. Lex, whose given name is Christopher Palmer, told our news center that he is praying that the world boss will be released.
Well, I'm just there all prayed up and fingers crossed, because you know I hope for the best, man. You know what I'm saying? DJ for their road is it. I hope for them to dash it out now. No more argument, no more retrial, and nothing, just show it out because them done too are going already, is it?
Fellow dancehall DJ Mr. G says he's disappointed that the incarcerated men were not granted immediate freedom.
Whichever way it's going to go, I think we need closure to it. Because, I mean, you know, basically the whole world that relates to dancehall and even outside of dancehall was looking forward to seeing Kartel and Sean them come back on the street.
Mr. G, who's also known as the swaggerific boss, described the case as a roller coaster that must come to a stop with justice finally being served.
I think if them going even go retrial, maybe them need to give the man them bail until the trial and them things, because from 2011 till now, a whole heap of years that incarcerated, and we don't know at this point in time what exactly transpired, but it's not just a clear-cut thing. But at this point, we just feel like we're on a roller coaster and we would like the right to come to an end so that we know if it's a yay or it's a nay.
Meanwhile, dancehall artist Kiprich, who was one of several who spoke out against the trial through his music, says that the artists and their co-accused should not have to suffer in prison any longer under the hands of what he says is a failed justice system.
I think they should just free them because 13 years is already served. I feel like that's enough time for any human, for rethink and reform. Another thing, why should any citizen suffer the consequence of a justice system that fails to do their job in a proper manner? That just don't make no sense. So this retrial thing, I don't see the sense in it, you know what I mean? We can't adjust the book because for them blunder.
There was also an outpouring of love on social media from several artists who have done collaborations with Vybz Kartel and Sean Storm. The queen of dancehall Spice changed her Instagram profile to a photo of Vybz Kartel. The artist also reposted several snippets of her praising him as the boss of dancehall. It was a similar sentiment for fellow artist Tommy Lee, who reposted a news article on the convictions being overturned. Gaza Kim also celebrated the news on her Instagram page, declaring freedom for Vybz Kartel. All of the eyes of dancehall's biggest stars will now be fixed on the Court of Appeal to see whether the self-styled world boss will have a retrial or walk free. Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
To the Parliament now, opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson says the upcoming budget for fiscal year 2024-25 falls short of what is needed to uplift the lives of the Jamaican people. He critiqued the government's spending plans as part of his contribution to the budget debate on Thursday. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
Not enough. Opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson says the government has failed to bridge the gap between fiscal stability and meaningful gains for Jamaicans.
Advocates of economic stability need to acknowledge that while it is a positive step, by itself alone, it is not enough to uplift the lives of the average Jamaican. The journey from mere fiscal stability to true economic transformation is essential. At the heart of this transformation is the need to address the challenges of low technological adoption, inadequate wage structures, and sluggish economic growth. What is proposed in the government's budget falls short of addressing these fundamental challenges that plague our society. And while there are elements of the budget which we agree and will support, they fail to alleviate the widespread struggles and adversities faced by the vast majority of the Jamaican people.
Mr. Robinson says the reality faced by most Jamaicans is one of poverty and struggle. He says this year there's no need for illustrations to show the suffering of the average person.
The reality on the ground in Jamaica tells a different story. The narrative of macroeconomic stability has not translated into substantial improvements in the lives of the majority of the Jamaican people. The most Jamaicans have to deal with the frustrating hand-to-mouth, can't make ends meet struggle. That is their reality. A significant percentage of our population still live paycheck to paycheck for those who get a paycheck. And for those who don't, it is even more difficult. Mr. Speaker, this is the first year that I have not brought my food pricing charts. I know you were looking forward to seeing them, Nigel, right? And you know why I never bring them? Because the reality is I don't need to bring them. The people have been feeling the effects of the increases in the cost of living.
According to Mr. Robinson, the government has squandered the hard-won economic gains accomplished under the previous PNP administration. He also countered the narrative put forward by the JLP about the supposed economic mismanagement of his party.
The PNP as a government demonstrated fiscal discipline in its last administration, and we are committed to continuing that practice. We met our fiscal targets previously, and we will do so again. So, Mr. Speaker, I say it because there are some who want to create a narrative about what the last PNP administration did or did not do. And I believe it's important for persons to understand what we did, the groundwork that we laid, which is the basis on which we enjoy the stability that we exist today.
Mr. Robinson also criticized the government's response to crime.
The low priority given to inequality and vulnerability in the society matches the fact that this government has almost entirely focused its national security response on the use of SOEs and ZOZOs as a primary way to control crime and violence. We know that there have been significant increases in the budget to the JDF and the JCF, but very little, if none at all, has been allocated for social intervention programs. While we welcome the increase to both the JDF and the JCF, we are concerned that the response to crime and violence has been disproportionately spent on crime control to the detriment of crime prevention.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC.
Hose Assembly and Supply Limited, equipping Jamaica for success.
The World in a Minute. Caribbean officials say a plan to create a transitional presidential council in Haiti is moving forward. This after a majority of Haitian parties and coalitions submitted the names of those charged with finding new leaders for the country. The names were provided to CARICOM, which is helping to lead the transition. Surinamese Foreign Minister Albert Ramdin says it's now up to the Haitian people. He says they are responsible for their own destiny. He spoke a day after Haitian politicians and influential figures bickered publicly about the plan and what names to submit, seemingly putting the creation of the council at risk.
In news further afield now, the U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has called for new elections in Israel, accusing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of prioritizing his political survival above the country. Schumer, a Democrat and the highest-ranking Jewish official in the United States, said Netanyahu had lost his way. He warned that huge civilian casualties in Gaza risked alienating allies and turning Israel into a global pariah. The White House has sought to distance itself from Schumer's comments. Spokesperson John Kirby says while the Senate leader had a right to his opinion, the administration was focused on working with Israel on its defense.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC.
Hose Assembly and Supply Limited, equipping Jamaica for success.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, dancehall's biggest star, Vybz Kartel, has his murder conviction overturned in the Privy Council.
Little youth, unstoppable, run away train. Everything fence, every lane. Here aim for the sky like plane.
The UK-based court says jury misconduct issues in the 2014 trial means the local court of appeal must decide whether there should be a retrial.
Opposition spokesman on finance blasts the government's budget for falling short of the needs of the Jamaican people. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robianne Williams.
You can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
News at 5 was brought to you by the new Crunch Sandwich from KFC. Available in hot and spicy or barbecue for just $600. A finger-licking good deal at KFC.
Go crazy for this offer from Flow. Get a free Samsung phone and earbuds when you sign up for Flow Yard and Road for the special price of $4,999 plus GCT. Free is all the craze. This crazy offer won't last long. Visit discoverflow.co or your nearest Flow store for more info. Conditions apply.
Did you know that many of my schoolmates have an unhealthy diet, especially at school? And now 23% of them are overweight and or obese? And so one less sugary drink at my school may mean one friend less,
or 2 or 3,
at risk of cavities or diabetes. And if we're served less foods high in saturated fats, sugar and sodium, it may reduce our risk from obesity, heart disease and high blood pressure.
The solution is simple, right? Act now.
Let's get unhealthy foods and beverages out of our schools.
A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica and partners.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. The Jamaica Scorpions reached 326 for 7 at sports time, close to, at the end of play on day 2 of their regional 4-day game at Sabina Park against the West Indies Cricket Academy. They lead now by 2 runs, the Jamaica Scorpions. The Scorpions, who resumed on 20 without loss this morning, now have a lead of 2, as I mentioned, with Pete Salmon not out 60 and Derval Green unbeaten on 25. Captain Brandon King has so far led the batting. He scored 77. Leroy Lugg weighed in with 64. Carlos Brown 33. At Kurt McKenzie 29, former captain Jermaine Blackwood went for a duck after facing just 2 balls. Joshua Bishop has so far taken 3 wickets with Kadeem Alain bagging 2. Over at the Queen's Park Oval, host Trinidad and Tobago Red Force, they continue to dominate leaders, the Windward Islands Volcanoes. After taking a 103-run first innings lead, the Red Force had the Volcanoes on 68 for 2, still 35 runs behind. Tion Webster starred for the Red Force in their first innings, 294, after he slammed 107 with 13 fours and 2 sixes. Jason Mohammed chipped in with 56 against Kenneth Dember, 5 for 31, and Shamar Springer, 3 for 76. Over at Coolidge, the champions Guyana Harpy Eagles, they moved their overnight 231 for 5 to 436 all out against Barbados Pride. Veerasamy Permaul was left not out on 90 to go along with Kevin Anderson 87, Tevin Imlak 55, Tajanarayan Chandapol 40, and Kevin Sinclair 72. At close, the Pride in response reached 59 for 3. They are still 377 runs behind. While at the Sir Frank Warren Memorial Ground, the Leeward Islands Hurricanes were bowled out for 259 in reply to 273 all out by the combined campuses and colleges team. The CCC, batting a second time, closed on 76 for 3, an overall lead of 90 runs. Red-hot Jamaican international Leon Bailey has been left out of the 23-man national squad named for the big CONCACAF Nations League semi-final against champions the United States next Thursday at the AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. Bailey, who has been in supreme form for his English Premier League club Aston Villa, has been suspended after sleeping out during camp for the Nations Cup game against Canada here in Jamaica. Coach Heimer Halgrimson explained the situation at this morning's press conference to announce the squad.
We basically have a lot of agreements between the staff and the coaches and the players, but we have only one rule: don't leave the hotel after 10 p.m. And these players didn't even sleep at the hotel, missed the bus next morning. We've kind of finished this. Both the players took responsibility of their actions. They apologized to us and the squad, and the apology is accepted. We all do mistakes in our lives, even the best. And for all of us, case is closed and we move on. So it was decided they will not be selected for the next camp, and only this camp.
Clarendon College, the Costa Cup star, Kaheem Dixon, has forced his way into the squad, and he's now looking forward to working his way into the 11.
I'm feeling very happy knowing that I've been selected for the Nations League squad. I think it's my hard work and my patience that's what do it for me, not my talent alone. Yes, I'm always ready for game time, no matter the minutes for me.
That's Kaheem Dixon speaking with Nationwide Sports outside the offices of the Jamaica Football Federation this morning. Exciting Sheffield United star 18-year-old Bailey Kadamarteri is also in the squad, along with Mount Pleasant FC goalkeeper Shaquan Davis. Cavalier defender Richard King makes a return to the senior international fold. So does Corey Burke. Ronaldo Cephas, Haroy Anderson and Dexter Lambikisa have also been named. Jamaica will, however, be without strikers Demaria Gray and Shamar Nicholson for the game against the United States. They are both out on card suspension, but will be available for either the final or the third place playoff. Halgrimson says the situation presents opportunities for other players in the squad to show their worth.
It just gives other players the possibility to step up, to take center stage and shine. And I'm hoping that they will, and I have confidence in that they will take this step. And I look at this as an option to grow, not a pressure or something else. Yes, it will mean a lot to win it, but I think it's a great opportunity to grow.
Heimer Halgrimson, coach of the Jamaica national senior football team. That's sports. We're going to be back with more at 6:05.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Hyundai, the home of modern, premium, affordable vehicles. Call us at 876-630-1511. The time by Hyundai is
5:32.
Love, care for, and protect our women and girls.
We are your family. We are your friends. Don't hurt us.
End violence against women and girls.
The temperature by the Office of the Prime Minister is
30 degrees Celsius here in the nation's capital, Kingston. It's 28 in the western city, Montego Bay.
Welcome deluxe, the cream cracker that rises to the top. So crisp, so light, so buttery. When you're good, you're just good. Hey, had the national flavor. You go want to buy this pack. So good, it's just so good. Welcome deluxe, the cream cracker that rises to the top. So crisp, so light, so buttery. National Baking Company, just so good.
The Leaders Conference of Choice is back on site at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel and online. Register now for Middle Managers Leadership Conference. Call 876-978-60012 or visit www.makeyourmarkgroup.com. Sponsored by Make Your Mark Group, Caledonia Outdoor Advertising, Jamaica Pegasus Hotel, JPS, Intelligent Multimedia Limited, Monographic Printers, Main Event Entertainment Group, Nationwide News Network, and Visual Tech Solutions. Middle Managers Conference, May 1 to 2, 2024. Sign up at www.makeyourmarkgroup.com.
Azen Super Center in Midtown Crossroads, a place you've come to know and trust for quality and the best prices. Now, come see our expanded range of products, fine furnishings, kitchenware, your smart TVs, and all things electronics, and the latest in curtains, bed linen, and bathroom accessories. It's the new and expanded Azen Super Center in Midtown Crossroads with convenient, safe, and free parking. Shop with a smile at Azen Super Center.
JampJA.org. Mind the business JA with Jump Online. Are your business? They keep your government in line.
Funded by the European Union and the UK International Development.
Stand out among competitors. Show your commitment to quality. Submit your entry in the Bureau of Standards Jamaica National Quality Awards Program. Your entry provides the opportunity for a free comprehensive assessment of your organization's management system and facilitates improvement in effectiveness and efficiency. This prestigious award associates your organization with performance excellence. Step into a world of excellence. Gain access to international markets. Enter today.
Call 618-1534. The Bureau of Standards Jamaica, making standards work for you.
Go crazy for this offer from Flow. Get a free Samsung phone and earbuds when you sign up for Flow Yard and Road for the special price of $4,999 plus GCT. Free is all the craze. This crazy offer won't last long. Visit discoverflow.co or your nearest Flow store for more info. Conditions apply.
I'm Dennis Brooks.
I'm Marlon Campbell.
I'm Floyd Green.
And I'm Garth Williams. Catch us on the Jamaican Dads podcast right here on Nationwide 90 FM, Thursdays at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m.
The Jamaican Dads podcast is all about providing men with a healthy, safe, and functional forum to tackle many of the taboo topics that concern our masculinity.
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
We've been a part of everyday Jamaican life for over 25 years. From paydays to birthdays, unexpected emergencies to anniversary celebrations, the supermarket checkout line, or paying a bill or taxes on time. Our fast, secure debit network provides reliable service so you can always depend on Multilink. Jamaican and proud, fast, secure, everywhere.
Good afternoon. It's 5:36 on Thursday, March 14th, and this is the Cover Story. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
I'm Franklin McKnight.
Good afternoon, Sir Knight. It's good to see you again.
What a big news day, man.
An interesting news day, that is most certainly. And we get into what I suppose is the biggest topic of the day. The UK-based Privy Council has overturned Vybz Kartel's 2014 murder conviction and sent the case back to the local Court of Appeal to consider whether a retrial should be held. The law lords delivered their ruling on Thursday. It's the latest chapter in the decade-long legal saga. Ricardo Brooks has read the judgment and he filed this report.
The judgment runs for 19 pages. It's unanimous. The 5 judges, Lord Reed, Lord Lloyd Jones, Lord Briggs, Lord Burrows, and Lady Simler, rested their decision largely on what they described as jury misconduct in the case. They say these issues created material irregularities. The judges say while they have significant sympathy for the dilemma presiding judge Lennox Campbell faced, these irregularities gave rise to a miscarriage of justice in Kartel's case. They cited at least 3 issues of concern with the jury, including an attempted $500,000 bribe being offered to members of the jury by one of their colleagues. The forewoman reported that 11 of the jurors had been offered bribes to free Kartel and the other men. The London-based judges say this bribe contaminated the jury in the case. They say more should have been done by the judge to investigate the extent of that contamination. The law lords say the direction given by the presiding judge was not sufficient to rectify the situation. The judges say, in any event, directions from a judge could not rectify the damage that had been done to the integrity of the Kartel trial. The law lords say the trial should not have continued with the juror who offered the bribe, as he was a source of contamination for the entire jury. Lords Reed, Briggs, Burrows, Lloyd Jones, and Lady Simler say the jury issues resulted in an infringement of the defendant's right to a fair hearing by an independent and impartial court. The judges say the contamination of the jury pool had spread too far to be overlooked. The judges say the fact that the prosecution may be prepared to waive irregularities in a case does not absolve the court of its responsibility to ensure a fair trial for the accused men. They say in order to maintain public confidence in the administration of justice, it's necessary to do justice to both the prosecution and the defense. The UK-based court says this is also necessary to ensure that the guilty may be convicted and the innocent acquitted. The Privy Council says, having determined that the convictions should be overturned on the basis of jury misconduct, it was not necessary to decide other novel constitutional claims raised in the appeal. In the interest of justice and in keeping with the Judicature Appellate Jurisdiction Act, the court said it would follow its usual practice and send the matter back to the local courts to decide whether a retrial should be ordered. Kartel, whose given name is Adidja Palmer, Sean Campbell, Kahira Jones, and Andre St. John were imprisoned for the 2011 murder of Clive Lizard Williams. Those convictions have now been erased. The men had pegged their hopes on the last-ditch appeal to the court in London. The ruling is a partial victory for the dancehall star, who had been hoping he and his colleagues would have been freed completely. It's left now to be seen if the Jamaican Court of Appeal will determine that the matter should be retried or if they will set the men free. Ricardo Brooks for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, residents of Waterford and Portmore St. Catherine are describing dancehall artist Vybz Kartel as a living legend. Jubilation erupted in a section of the community referred to as Gaza City, where Kartel grew up, when the ruling was handed down on Thursday morning. Kartel, whose given name is Adidja Palmer, and his co-convicts Sean Storm Campbell, Kahira Jones, and Andre St. John had appealed their 2014 murder conviction. Robin Williams was in Gaza City today.
Out the road, me say, Babylon say jail for me. Then the judge say bail for me. So as he tell the jury.
One world boss, the residents said as they celebrated the ruling. There were screams of excitement. A resident, Michelle, told Nationwide that the decision of the court to uphold the appeal is a victory for the community.
It's victory. I feel so good. I feel so wonderful. God is good. I feel good because I have faith. I always have faith in Him. Yes, good youth. It means a lot because of a lot of people He used to help. A lot of children back to school. God is good and God is able. And I know Him gonna free. At least Him free.
Other residents shared similar sentiments.
The years we are wait, 10, 11 years we are wait. You hear that we are wait. I wonder who I got, who I go on every minute the thing put off, see it put on now. Our Addy here.
Free Addy man, I see where this go. It just be drying out and nothing, I see no evidence. And them live on my road. Them parents, and him sister and brother. Nah, lie, man, free the man, because I'm still nothing. Them not find a body, them not tamper with this, and look at the man, them undone, man.
Meanwhile, Kartel's official social media pages have been active. On X, formerly known as Twitter, @Vybz Official reposted the Privy Council's decision with the caption, "Thank you," accompanied by the flag of the United Kingdom. In another post, the caption was a quote from one of his songs. It read, "Long time don't eat a real dinner, #back to life, #freedom street." And on Instagram, supporters flooded the artist's page with praise. Vybz Kartel has been behind bars since September 30, 2011. All eyes are now set on the local court of appeal to decide whether there'll be a retrial or if Kartel and his co-accused will indeed make it to Freedom Street. Robian Williams for Nationwide News.
And the entertainment fraternity has welcomed the news that the convictions of Vybz Kartel and his co-accused have been overturned. Well, to discuss this matter more, we have Bert Samuels and... my apologies. It seems we only have John Clark at the moment, one of the attorneys representing Andre St. John and Kahira Jones. Sir Clark, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Clark.
So, immediately, your reaction to the news that Vybz Kartel's conviction has been quashed and it has been sent back to determine whether it should go to a retrial.
Well, I'm elated at the fact that it has been quashed. I'm disturbed that it has taken so long for this issue, which perhaps should have been resolved from the trial stage, to now be resolved. And bear in mind the fact that Attorney Pierre Rogers and King's Counsel Tom Tavares Finton had indicated before the trial judge in very strong terms their concern about the trial continuing in light of the allegations. The trial judge, as it was right, decided that the trial should continue, and one recalls the word of the Privy Council, where they indicated that they're sympathetic to the concern that the judge would have found himself in, remembering that for more than 64 days there would have been a trial in this matter, extensive resources by the state, so the judge was in an unenviable position. So it was a decision to make the matter proceed. It went to the Court of Appeal, and at the Court of Appeal stage, all the appellants, lawyers essentially, took strong objection to the course undertaken by the trial judge, indicated that it deprives the appellants of the right to a fair trial. The Court of Appeal, as they did in paragraph 238 of the judgment, indicated essentially that a miscarriage of justice did not take place in this matter, and what the Privy Council did as our apex court or highest court is that they reviewed the decision of the trial judge, reviewed the approach taken by the Court of Appeal, and ultimately held that it was wrong, that the appellants were deprived of a fair trial for a number of reasons, and the primary reason is that the appellants are entitled to a fair consideration of their case by independent and impartial jury, and the contamination, that is the allegations of bribery, had spread so wide and there was no sufficient direction. And in fact, the board held that those of you that no direction perhaps could have been given in the facts of this case to cure the injustice that were been suffered by the appellants. And in those circumstances and the fact of this case, the wrong turn that happened in the law that was initiated by the Court of Appeal decision has now been corrected, and the new precedent is that something like this would happen to your child or another Jamaican, be able to rely on the precedent of this judgment to see it is wrong and should not be allowed to happen.
Okay. Stay with us, Mr. Clark. We have a break up on us.
We've been a part of everyday Jamaican life for over 25 years. From paydays to birthdays, unexpected emergencies to anniversary celebrations, the supermarket checkout line, or paying a bill or taxes on time. Our fast, secure debit network provides reliable service so you can always depend on Multilink. Jamaican and proud, fast, secure, everywhere.
Go crazy for this offer from Flow. Get a free Samsung phone and earbuds when you sign up for Flow Yard and Road for the special price of $4,999 plus GCT. Free is all the craze. This crazy offer won't last long. Visit discoverflow.co or your nearest Flow store for more info. Conditions apply.
Time to pay your tax? Relax! You've got this with your Sagicor Bank Business Credit Card. Use your Sagicor Bank Business Credit Card to pay your taxes and get a 1-month payment holiday. New cardholders get first-year annual fee waived. Plus, you get up to 55 days interest-free and earn unlimited reward points every time you spend. So when you're ready to pay your tax, relax! You've got this. Use your Sagicor Bank Business Credit Card and enjoy the best rewards ever. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Nationwide Cover Story, where we're discussing the Privy Council's ruling on dancehall entertainer Vybz Kartel. We have on the line one of the attorneys representing the defendants in this case. That's Kahira Jones and Andre St. John, John Clark. Mr. Clark, one question more from me. The matter of where does this go now? That the conviction has been quashed and the courts here must decide whether it should go to a retrial. What happens to the clients, the defendants rather, in this matter until that retrial decision is made?
What I can do is give an example of what happened in a similar matter. So in a similar matter, I think it was a Chabadine Pierre matter. What happened then was that the matter was before the Court of Appeal. So the board made a decision, and that decision was essentially to quash the conviction and remit the issue of retrial for determination by the Court of Appeal. Whilst the matter was before the Court of Appeal, Mr. Peart was in custody, and the Court of Appeal examined the facts of that case. And I hasten to note in Mr. Peart's case, it took them less than 7 years for the entire appellate process, including the matter of retrial being heard by the Court of Appeal to reach the Court of Appeal. And they examined that particular fact and decided that the interest of justice in that case meant that a retrial was to be ordered. In this particular case, we're speaking about more than 13 years, almost more than 13 years, after the commission of the offense, that the matter would be going before the Court of Appeal for the determination of that issue. So what ordinarily takes place is that until the Court of Appeal make a decision on the issue of retrial, the appellant would essentially await that decision to make a determination as what is the next step.
So the expectation...
I wanted to... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just would like to ask, so the expectation then is that Vybz Kartel and his co-accused will remain in custody until that matter is heard?
Well, Vybz Kartel, I heard some press statements from Bert Samuel that he intends to make a bail application on behalf of Frank Campbell. So what I suspect is that the attorneys will be speaking to the respective appellants and be taking their instruction, examining the law to make a determination as to what is the best course. But all attorneys will have to take their marching orders from the clients as to what they want to be requested from the court. And despite what anybody may see publicly, at the end of the day, we'll all be guided by the law, and at the end of the day, we will have to just make a request, whatever request can be made pursuant to the law, to the relevant authority, whether it is the Court of Appeal or the Circuit Court, and then a decision will be made.
Mr. Clark, in your earlier comments, you mentioned how long this process has taken. Give us an understanding of why it took so long, and whether this is not fairly common that the appeal and appeal to the Privy Council, even to the local Court of Appeal, and then to the Privy Council, why this takes so long. And I'd love to ask, just join on to that part of the question that Siobhan asked, whether you think that a retrial is viable, given that most likely we would be trying to seek to empanel jurors in Jamaica.
All right, to start, it is, if one looks at our oldest cases, one would realize that as a country, we used to do better when it comes to the issue of appeals. So we normally would have appeals heard within a shorter time period, judgments returned within a shorter time period, then an ability to go to the Privy Council within a short time period, and then ultimately some form, the appellate process will be completed with due dispatch. What is happening now, it could be a fact that as a nation we are a victim of our own success, or people are more informed, more appeals are being filed, the Court of Appeal in some cases can be said to be overworked. So what is happening, appeals are taking longer. In fact, in Mr. Palmer's case, I think he had to wait more than 2 years just for the Court of Appeal to hand down our judgment. And in those circumstances, there is some delay at the appellate process, and it is a systemic problem that we will need to have examined and ensure that in scenarios like these, what is happening is that the systemic problem does not add on to the injustice that either party, that is the complainant's family and the accused family, may think they have to suffer from the process itself. So there's some systemic problem that we need to resolve. On the issue of the retrial, that is an argument that's been made before the Court of Appeal, so that's a matter that is going to go before the court. So in light of that, there's not much I can see in relation to what are the arguments that will ultimately be made before the Court of Appeal. But different persons may very well ask several questions whether or not it can be possible to find an independent, impartial jury when all the facts of this particular case for more than 64 days was laid bare before the ears and eyes of all Jamaicans. And even after the case, you look on YouTube, you see many persons streaming various elements of matters. So in a scenario like that, it would be very difficult, one may say, for us to find an independent, impartial jury. But ultimately, our Court of Appeal, filled with experienced jurists, will make the determination after hearing from both sides where the interests of justice lie and whether or not the appellant's right to fair trial after more than 13 years can still be achieved in a manner that does not violate the tenor and spirit of our Constitution.
Then, Mr. Clark, let me ask you this: based on what you said, that you believe then that it is exceedingly difficult to find an unbiased jury panel for the defendants to face at this moment, and I suppose you can only speak for your clients, but would it be possible then for this trial to be tried by judge alone? Would that be acceptable?
Well, to answer the first question, both parties, based on legislation, the Crown and the defense, would have to make an agreement essential that they want the matter to be tried by judge alone, if I understand the current legislative framework correctly. But beyond that, I'm not saying, to make it quite clear, that it's impossible to find 7 independent impartial jurors. This is a determination that not I will make, but that the Court of Appeal will make after hearing the arguments from both sides. And I, based on my own experience, would not be prepared to make a decision on one side or the other. But all I can say is that some persons may genuinely ask themselves questions, but ultimately it is the Court of Appeal, filled with experienced jurists, whose decision and determination on that point will be important.
Mr. Clark, should it give us pause that this decision, we have to wait for the Privy Council to correct a matter of jury misconduct, or some might even say abuse of process? Does it give us pause when at a time when we are discussing constitutional issues to dump the Privy Council, for example? Should it give us pause as Jamaicans?
Well, and I wouldn't say that, because what it does suggest is that somehow it's impossible to get justice from local jurists. And jurists may invariably, as judges, may invariably disagree on how legal issues are determined. But not because we disagree on a point, it means that somebody is incompetent or corrupt or incapable of handing down judgment. Because in some cases, if you look at this judgment, for example, to the Privy Council, about a month to hand down this detailed judgment, 19 pages. And many lawyers were joking, even before the judgment was written, betting that it will not be between 18 to 20 pages. If you look at the judgment that was handed down by our Court of Appeal, it was far more detailed and covered numerous issues. I would have hoped, as a defense counsel, that the issue that the Privy Council ultimately decided in our favor would have been decided in the same way by the Court of Appeal. And the arguments that were made by all the appellate lawyers who represented appellants at the Court of Appeal were essentially similar to the arguments made before the Privy Council. But the Privy Council decided clearly and shortly, in a record time, that the arguments that were being made, even by the trial lawyers, at the first instant case before Justice Campbell, were the arguments that the Privy Council found to be correct. But it does not mean that all of the judges in Jamaica are somehow incapable of doing justice. It does that in some cases judges may disagree. But what is clear with this guidance from the Privy Council, moving forward, our judges will be applying this guidance as they always do, and it will ensure that persons who are in similar circumstances as Mr. Palmer, as Mr. Sean Campbell, as Brigadier Jones, as Andre St. John's, will never have to go through the difficulty, because we now have a guiding authority at the point. Before today, we never had a guiding authority on how to deal with this situation. And the Court of Appeal did say that. So now this issue is resolved, but because the issue is resolved, it don't mean that our judges should be thrown out and say that they're bad. Because
Mr. Clark, I just wanted to ask this one very quickly. What's the timeline now on what should the Jamaican people be expecting now? How soon would we be hearing from the Court of Appeal in determining where this goes?
Well, one thing that caused me concern, and I said it earlier, is that the Court of Appeal took almost 2 years to hand down a judgment. And you see the board taking a month to hand down judgment in the same case. So what one hopes is that this will somehow have the Court of Appeal making some internal questions and determination about the timeliness in relation to which they hand down judgments, one. And as it relates to this specific case, one hopes that, bearing in mind the expediency and the speed with which this matter was dealt with, that the Court of Appeal can, in a similar manner as it did in Shabadin Pierce, have this entire issue determined in the space of perhaps 3 months to ensure that the issue of retrial can be concluded, and if the interest of justice requires the appellants to be released, that they be released, and that this issue and this chapter and this nightmare for these appellants who have been in custody for almost more than 13 years can come to an end.
Thank you, Attorney John Clark. He represents Kahira Jones and Andre St. John in this matter. Have a good afternoon, sir.
Thank you very much.
The news now at 6.
Cover Story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Say hello to peace of mind and goodbye to worry with Guardian Life's new Ultimate Provider Plan, and secure your medical expenses in the event of critical illness today. Call 888-367-5433 for details.
The time by Guardian Life is
6:01.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Vindicated. That's the reaction of Bert and Bianca Samuels, the father-daughter team of attorneys who represented Sean Storm Campbell in the Privy Council appeal. Sean Storm, Vybz Kartel, and 2 others had their murder convictions overturned on Thursday.
It isn't best case scenario because there will be remittance to the Court of Appeal for consideration as to whether or not there should be a retrial. It's not what we wanted wholesomely, but we are grateful that justice was served in that the Privy Council found that there was injustice in respect of the jury tampering issue, and we are happy that that was the result of the Court of Appeal. But we have a challenge ahead of us in respect of the retrial issue, and so that's why you're not seeing me jumping up and down at this time, though we are grateful that the conviction was quashed.
Bianca Samuels. And Bert Samuels says the case should not have advanced to the Privy Council.
We are thinking that this is an instructive judgment. It ought not to have had to go to the Privy Council. It should have been stopped by the trial judge. If not, it should have been stopped by the Jamaican Court of Appeal. And therefore, the men who have been convicted for 10 years, and one day today, the 14th of March, they will live again for a retrial consideration.
Bert Samuels, attorney representing Sean Storm. Meanwhile, the attorney for Andre St. John and Kahira Jones, John Clark, is pleased with the overturned convictions for his clients.
I'm very happy with the fact that the conviction of the appellants were overturned. It was my view that this conviction could not stand because the process that led to the conviction was unfair, and for that reason, bearing in mind the guarantees that we have to all of our citizens, it was a dangerous precedent in relation to what was decided happened on that day by the trial judge and affirmed by our Court of Appeal, and that was a dangerous precedent that could be applied to other citizens.
Mr. Clark says he's awaiting the determination of the Jamaican Court of Appeal and instructions from his clients.
I have no such instructions at this stage, and I have to speak with the client as relates to that. But it is time will tell whether or not that is a process open to these particular appellants. But that will have to be a review of the law will have to be done, and an appropriate advice provided. But I would not presume to take that step to apply for bail until the Court of Appeal has made a determination that a retrial is inevitable. Because if the Court of Appeal ultimately decides that there is no retrial, it will mean that a verdict of acquittal will be entered and the appellant will be discharged. And there will be no need for a bail application.
John Clark, attorney for Andre St. John and Kahira Jones. Opposition spokesman on finance, Julian Robinson, says the upcoming budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 falls short of what is needed to uplift the lives of the Jamaican people. He critiqued the government spending plans as part of his contribution to the budget debates on Thursday.
Advocates of economic stability need to acknowledge that while it is a positive step, by itself alone, it is not enough to uplift the lives of the average Jamaican. The journey from mere fiscal stability to true economic transformation is essential. At the heart of this transformation is the need to address the challenges of low technological adoption, inadequate wage structures, and sluggish economic growth. What is proposed in the government's budget falls short of addressing these fundamental challenges that plague our society. And while there are elements of the budget which we agree and will support, they fail to alleviate the widespread struggles and adversities faced by the vast majority of the Jamaican people.
Mr. Robinson also criticized the government's response to crime.
The low priority given to inequality and vulnerability in the society matches the fact that this government has almost entirely focused its national security response on the use of SOEs and ZOZOs as a primary way to control crime and violence. We know that there have been significant increases in the budget to the JDF and the JCF, but very little, if none at all, has been allocated for social intervention programs. While we welcome the increase to both the JDF and the JCF, we are concerned that the response to crime and violence has been disproportionately spent on crime control to the detriment of crime prevention.
Julian Robinson, opposition spokesman on finance. Face-to-face classes at Grange Hill Primary and Grange Hill High in Westmoreland resumed on Thursday. The institutions were forced to close their doors on Tuesday, following a flare-up in gang activities in the community. Education Minister Favour Williams provided the update on Thursday.
When I talk about needing an all of Jamaica embrace of education transformation, we only need to look at the closure of 2 schools this week, Grange Hill Primary and Grange Hill High School, as a result of gang violence. It's only today, Thursday, that those schools are set to reopen for classes after local police and the military moved in to bring back normalcy. I cite this because this is a major disruption for almost 750 students at the primary level and almost 900 students at the high school level. The schools did what they could to get the students in the virtual space, but we know that that is suboptimal because internet connectivity is not as ubiquitous or seamless as we would like it to be.
The minister says psychological support will be given to the students and the teachers at the institutions.
I take the time to highlight that example because even when those students and teachers come back to school, they have to spend many hours to get back to normalcy. We have to attend to the psychosocial needs of those students. And I'm saying they've lost a lot. Multiply that by the many out-of-school factors that our students have to contend with every day, and you will see that the call for all Jamaicans to embrace education transformation is real.
Favour Williams, Minister of Education. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Shaloy Smichael. Sports is next.
Crunch sandwich from KFC. Great flavor, great price. It's for me. KFC signature, hot and spicy. Chicken with the lettuce, mayo, fries, and Pepsi. We've got you covered when you're hungry. The new crunch sandwich from KFC. We've got you covered when you're hungry. The new crunch sandwich from KFC.
Hungry for deals? Get the new crunch sandwich combo from KFC. A small hot and spicy chicken sandwich with lettuce and mayo, plus fries and a Pepsi for just $600. Also available in barbecue. A finger-licking good deal. KFC.
Accelerate your career with the right ally. Mona School of Business and Management. Explore our suite of highly ranked, specialized, globally competitive graduate degrees, including our internationally accredited MBA program. At MSBM, we nurture critical thinkers and innovative leaders, placing our graduates in a league of their own. Join the community of trailblazers making an impact at home and abroad. Apply online today. Global knowledge, regional solutions.
Good evening with your sports report. I am Alric Swaby. We bowl things off with some cricket. The Jamaica Scorpions reached 326 for 7 at the end of play on day 2 of their regional 4-day game against the West Indies Academy at Sabina Park. The Scorpions, who resume on 20 without loss this morning, now have a 2-run lead with Pete Salmon not out on 60 and Derville Green unbeaten on 25. Captain Brandon King has so far led the batting with 77, Leroy Logg weighed in with 64, Carlos Brown 33 and Kirk McKenzie 29. Former skipper Jermaine Blackwood went for a duck. Joshua Bishop has so far taken 3 wickets with Kadeem Allen bagging 2. At the Queen's Park Oval, host Trinidad and Tobago Red Force continues to dominate league leaders, the Windward Islands Volcanoes. After taking a 103 runs first innings lead, the Red Force had the Volcanoes on a 68 for 2, still 35 runs behind. Tian Webster starred for the Red Force in their first innings 294 after he slammed 107 with 13 fours and 2 sixes. Jason Mohammed chipped in with 56 against Kenneth Denver, 5 for 31, and Shamar Springer, 3 for 76. At Coolidge, champions Guyana Happy Eagles moved their overnight 231 for 5 to 436 all out against Barbados Pride. Viewer Sammy Pamal was left not out on 90 to go along with Kevin Anderson, 87, Tevin Imlak, 55, Tajnarayan Shandapal, 40, and Kevin Sinclair, 72. At close, the Pride in response reached 59 for 3, still 377 runs behind. While at the Sir Frank Worrell Memorial Ground, the Leeward Highlands Hurricanes were bowled out for 259 in reply to 273 all out by the combined campuses and colleges. CCC, batting a second time, closed on 76 for 3, an overall lead of 90 runs. Now to football. Red Hot Jamaican international Leon Bailey has been left out of the 23-man squad named for the big CONCACAF Nations League semi-final against champions the United States next Thursday at the AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. Bailey, who has been in supreme form for his English Premier League club Aston Villa, has been suspended after sleeping out during camp for the Nations Cup game against Canada here in Jamaica. Coach Amir Halgrimson explained the situation at this morning's press conference to announce the squad.
We basically have a lot of agreements between the staff and the coaches and the players, but we have only one rule: don't leave the hotel after 10 p.m. And these players didn't even sleep at the hotel, missed the bus next morning. We've kind of finished this. Both the players took responsibility of their actions. They apologized to us and the squad, and the apology is accepted. We all do mistakes in our lives, even the best. And for all of us, case is closed and we move on. So it was decided they will not be selected for the next camp, and only this camp.
Clarendon College, the Costa Cup star, Kaheem Dixon, has forced his way into the squad and he's now looking forward to working his way into the 11.
I'm feeling very happy knowing that I've been selected for the Nations League squad. I think it's my hard work and my patience that's what do it for me, not my talent alone. Yes, I'm always ready for game time, no matter the minutes for me.
Exciting Sheffield United star 18-year-old Bailey Kadamari is also in the squad along with Mount Pleasant FC goalkeeper Shaquan Davis. Cavalier defender Richard King makes a return to the senior international fold, so does Corey Burke. Ronaldo Cephas, Horai Anderson and Dexter Lembekisi has also been named. Jamaica will, however, be without strikers Damari Gray and Shamar Nicholson for the game against the United States. They are both out on card suspension but will be available for either the final or the third-place playoff. Halgrimson says the situation presents opportunities for other players in the squad to show their worth.
It just gives other players the possibility to step up, to take center stage and shine. And I'm hoping that they will, and I have confidence in that they will take this step. And I look at this as an option to grow, not a pressure or something else. Yes, it will mean a lot to win it, but I think it's a great opportunity to grow.
Hamir Halgrimson, head coach of Jamaica's national football team. Liverpool made ridiculous light work against Sparta Prague in the second leg of their Europa League's last 16 tie, winning 6-1 to ensure an 11-2 aggregate win. Despite holding a 5-1 lead from the first leg and with a FA Cup clash against Manchester United coming up, Jurgen Klopp opted to use his heavy artillery, starting Mohamed Salah and Darwin Núñez as the Reds pulverized their already down and out opponents.
Núñez!
And that run in front of goal continues. 9 in 11 games for Darwin Núñez.
For the chance.
Could be more trouble here. Oh, what a moment. Bobby Clark with a goal on a night he will never, ever forget. And this is Mo Salah. And there's his moment of history. He's the first player to score 20 or more goals in all competitions in 7 successive seasons for Liverpool Football Club. And they're open again here, Salah's cross, Gakpo! It's 4, and there is a goal back for Sparta Prague. He's always shooting, and with the help of a deflection, he adds his name to the list, just as he did a week ago. There's Elliott again, and this time he does have his goal.
Meanwhile, AC Milan beat Slavia Prague 3-1 to advance 7-3 on aggregate. West Ham advanced 5-1 on aggregate over Freiburg after winning 5-0 on the day. And Roma advanced 4-1 on aggregate despite losing 1-0 against Brighton. Now to horse racing, as Sir Alex Ferguson celebrated his first ever Cheltenham Festival win as Monmiral claimed victory in the Per Thames Network final today. The legendary Manchester United manager was seen with a huge smile on his face moments after the win as the 25-1 shot came home ahead of Quintara.
Over the final flight, Quintara on the far side, just had the lead. Quintara on the far side, Monmiral is on the near side. Cuthbert Devil is back in third. In fourth is Bold Endeavour. Another 100 yards to go. Monmiral beginning to get up on the near side for Harry Cobden. And it is Monmiral who has won the attempt. In second came Quintara, then Cuthbert Devil and Bolden.
Ferguson followed that up with favourite Tihupu winning the stairs hurdle to give trainer Gordon Elliott his first win of the week. The 7-year-old held off the 2021 and the 2022 winner, Florian Porter, the home by the Lee in third.
At the final flight, his lead was a length over Florian Porter in second. Home by the Lee was over in third. Buddy One is in fourth. They've got another half furlong to go. Chiupo pouring it on, going clear on the Ramsar line. And it will be Jack Kennedy and Chiupo who take the Paddy Power stayers hurdle. Florian Porter in second. Home by the Lee in third.
Another former English Premier League manager, Harry Redknapp, is also a first-time winner. Redknapp celebrated as Shake 'em Up Harry found the score sheet on a football-oriented day 3 of the Cheltenham Festival. Having watched his former managerial rival, Sir Alex Ferguson, notch a double early on the card, it was soon the turn of the former West Ham, Portsmouth and the Tottenham boss to return to the Prestbury Park winners' enclosure with his course specialist, who supplemented his New Year's Day triumph here in the great style. Sent off at 8-1 for the Trust A Trader Plate Handicap Chase, the Ben Pauling trained 10-year-old travelled supremely in the hands of Ben Jones, and having jumped the last hurdle, already looking a winner, he stuck his head down and galloped all the way to the line.
And Straw Fan Jack, they're attacking. It's Shake 'em Up Harry, drifting right-handed, but he's out clear by a couple of lengths and racing up towards the line. Shake 'em Up Harry will win the plate.
Now on to netball, as a newly appointed coach of the national senior netball team, Sasha Gay Henry, says it will be easy for the overseas-based players to integrate into the squad for their upcoming assignments. Henry says the Sunshine Girls' next assignment is a bilateral series later this year.
We are starting our strength and conditioning, trying to look forward to the different seasons that we have coming up. Definitely we'll be having a tour. We're working with our local base right now. Happily to introduce our overseas players in the summer. So we're just preparing now for our first thing. The series has not yet been confirmed, but it's going to be confirmed. And it's going to be a home and away series. So I'm excited about that. And we're just trying to continue to build on our team that we have already.
She says the overseas-based players will have enough time to gel with the local-based players.
They are very professional, they are very hungry, and they want to do well. So we have already had our discussions, we have already had meetings with them. So it's just for them to come in and feel and bring in their experience to help these girls. So it's a good culture. I mean, we've had a good culture, and they're very excited about the way forward. So I don't think it's going to be a problem when these girls come in. The good thing about it, too, is that those girls' season will finish in June. So we'll have them way before our first tournament in November.
Sasha Gay Henry. And finally, in lacrosse, the Jamaica's 22-member under-20 women's lacrosse squad will travel to Orlando, Florida for a 5-day training camp starting on March 21. The camp is part of the team's preparation for the Women's Under-20 Championships in Hong Kong from August 15 to 25. A member of the Jamaica Lacrosse Association, Dwight Clark, says team unity is one of the main focus of the camp.
For this camp, we just want to get the team to gel, put in some systems in place based on what the coach wanted them to play when they go to Hong Kong, and just get them really understanding the system. That is the main thing. Well, we're working on all areas now because the game is a little bit different. It's more high tempo when you travel. So we'll have a couple practice games up there. Once we get those practice games in and see how they respond to a different style of play, then we'll definitely have a good look at what they are capable of.
Clark says the camp will be good preparation for the World Championships in Hong Kong.
The last time we went to the World Championship, we did ourselves proud because we used all the players from our high school system. This time around is the same. We probably have about 4 or 5 players that are not from the high school system. So once these girls get exposed to international competition a little bit sooner, which is what this camp is preparing them for, and I think that will get the jitters out of them. Their expectations will be a little bit different going into Hong Kong. So I know they will do well in Hong Kong once they get this camp behind them and get exposure with a couple other teams that they will be playing.
Dwight Clark, I'm Alric Swiby, and that's your sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:21.
Upgrade your kitchen and bathroom to the next level with Unique Living. They're the ultimate destination for all your kitchen and bathroom needs, from luxurious shower systems to exquisite faucets, vanities, sinks, toilets, closets, and more. They have it all. Visit shop number 6, 30 Dunrobin Avenue, Kingston 10, or call them at 876-755-3661. Elevate your space with Unique Living, where quality meets expectations.
Time to pay your tax? Relax! You've got this with your Sagicor Bank Business Credit Card. Use your Sagicor Bank Business Credit Card to pay your taxes and get a 1-month payment holiday. New cardholders get first-year annual fee waived. Plus, you get up to 55 days interest-free and earn unlimited reward points every time you spend. So when you're ready to pay your tax, relax! You've got this. Use your Sagicor Bank Business Credit Card and enjoy the best rewards ever. Conditions apply.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. I'm Robianne Williams, a special one to our friends on our YouTube platform. Big up on yourself. We invite you to weigh in live in the comment section on today's Public Opinion. It's an ongoing discussion, one when we're going from morning. The UK-based Privy Council has overturned Vybz Kartel's 2014 murder conviction. The law lords instructed Jamaica's Court of Appeal to determine whether the incarcerated dancehall star and his 3 co-convicts should be granted a retrial. The 5 judges, they gave the instructions this morning. Now, Kartel, whose given name is Adidja Palmer, and his co-convicts, Sean Storm Campbell, Kahira Jones, and Andre St. John, had appealed their 2014 murder conviction. The men, who were imprisoned for the 2011 murder of Clive Lizard Williams, had pegged their hopes on the last-ditch appeal to the court in London. Now, the decision, the judges say, was largely on what they described as jury misconduct in the case. They say these issues created material irregularities. So in Public Opinion today, we're asking, what's your reaction to the Privy Council's decision to overturn Kartel's murder conviction?
Vybz Kartel for that prison. I understand them people in Jamaica talk about free. I don't know what kind of justice system Jamaica has them free and just to stay in prison. Honestly, for me alone, I'm staying there for 1 million a year.
See the young people, them, wow, develop this gang thing and this badness thing. And them alone support him, and them alone can help him. Yeah, man, one of my 200 years and get. It's like me didn't know said it have a overturn, you know.
As Adam just said, Jamaica going to pay dearly for this.
Vybz Kartel is just the kind of boy. But as them say, still, you see when you're an entertainer, you get different privilege. But you know, say, if them don't follow the law as how the law go, Kartel, uno, go prison. Because basically, what we see, them might break the law just to send Kartel go to prison. You know?
It's like him go so boom, and I have the place for a certain amount of lockdown where anything where him say empowers them up there. I don't know how politics running now. Anytime them can control you, you know, you're them good. Anytime them can't control you, them put you down. Whether them put you in a prison or them kill you. So my thing with this is that them should have deal with the case in the right and proper way. Them still put him down for a long period of time still. Because 10 years out of him life, a whole heap that, you know. Him not got the same effect when him come a road like it had before, you know.
The problem that a lot of people were in a jail or in a prison, that's been convicted, probably similar to them for there. It's based around the fact that them not have the money for hire the lawyer to make these levels of appeal. So when it comes down to things like this, the money talk and the money will talk because an influence is there.
I did think that Kartel got a raw deal. I did think so. Because if the evidence were tampered with, he should have be released from then. So I agree with the decision that they made to let him go. He got a raw deal. He deserves a retrial or to be released. That is my views.
The verdict by the law lords have certainly divided opinions in our country. I just think there is no winner in this, however, and the judges at the appellate court and the trial judge, they have a lot of eggs on their face today. They just must be more careful and pay attention to the stricture of the law.
All right, the views of the people, you know, some really strong views right there coming from the public, members of the public. If you're just joining us, we're inside the court of public opinion. We're asking your reaction to the Privy Council's decision to overturn Vybz Kartel's murder conviction. I will start with some of the comments on our X platform. The Third Power of Sam says, tentatively free world boss. And Ras Law is asking, what next? What comes next? Appleton is saying, look like Adi free again. Yana is asking, the question she's saying, will they actually set him free or have a retrial? And Francis is also asking, how soon does the Court of Appeal have to decide on a retrial? That's a question we should definitely find out. Yes. Sharine is saying that it's interesting. She finds the conviction that was overturned to be interesting. Rana K says it was as expected. And over here, Nyla looks like she is celebrating world boss, Adi, teacher, Gaza, boss, King Adi, king of dancehall, Mr. Palmer. And she says, whoa, with the emoji celebrating. Rich is saying Gaza. Indeed. If you're just joining us, we're asking your reaction to the Privy Council overturning the conviction of Vybz Kartel. Joseph Bryden on our YouTube saying retrial. Prosperity says they will do everything to keep him in prison. Let me see if I can get some more in on this one. Philip Jackson, you can send your contribution here. I see you asking about, yes, Facebook. You can send your contribution here. I'll definitely read it. You know we like to hear from you. Let me see if I can get in some more. On our X platform, I'm seeing somebody say move this, no? That's what you're saying. And let me go on over to our Instagram platform. Kimmy is saying a retrial definitely coming. Willie Ryan Wilson is saying they need to hurry up with this case. And some level of confusion took place today because persons were asking if it's quashed, does it mean that it done, it finished, it over? No, it's not over. It's not over as yet. The Court of Appeal, the local Court of Appeal, needs to now decide whether if it will go to a retrial. The convictions have been overturned, but the Court of Appeal, the local Court of Appeal, will now decide whether they are going to a retrial. CPV says exactly what should have happened 12 years ago. Shamar says the court will decide if they want a retrial to let him go. Let me see if I can get in this one by Reem Mill. Dema UK, no se cartel. Okay, can't read that one. Yep, the conviction was overturned. And let me see if I can get in some more on our YouTube platform. Bear with me. Sean Kidd says these people celebrating is not a good look. Anthony Johnson is saying it can be up to 2 to 3 months and the court is not going to just let him go so easy. Well, we know the court process, it can be a tedious one, So we look forward to what comes next. Let me see if I can have some more. Philip Jackson says truth will never lose. No matter how long it takes, the truth will prevail. Indeed. Eldon Lewis says the Privy Council is my preferred final court. We know there's discourse about that as it relates to the Privy Council and the CCJ, yeah? And that's where we'll close off public opinion this evening. Thank you guys so much for participating, but that's all the time we do have. Remember, you do have the option of agreeing and or disagreeing as you're entitled to your own opinion. So if you say you feel like, the Privy Council's decision was a good one to overturn Vybz Kartel's murder conviction, that's your opinion. And if you feel like, say, shouldn't go that way there, that's also your opinion. Do stay tuned for the business report.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today. Annual eye examinations not only assess your vision but may be life-saving. Eye tests may detect serious health issues that go beyond your vision. Call IQ Optical to schedule your comprehensive eye test today.
The temperature by IQ Optical is
29 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 28 out west in Montego Bay. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. Reforms implemented to improve the ease of doing business in Jamaica were the focal points of the Jamaica Business Reform Forum held on Wednesday, March 13 at the AC Marriott Hotel. The event, staged by the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, saw dozens of public and private sector players in attendance discussing the rationale behind and the impact of business improvements. The Jamaica Business Reform Forum was held to increase the public's understanding of business reforms implemented by the government, highlight public-private partnerships aimed at enhancing the business environment, and illustrate the impact of government investments on these initiatives. Keynote speaker, Senator and Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Aubin Hill, says that to produce at an efficient level and compete at an international level, productivity must be increased. In other news, China has attacked a bill going through Congress that could ultimately see TikTok banned in the United States, accusing it of unjustly behaving like a bandit. The bill, passed by the U.S. House of Representatives, would give TikTok's parent company 6 months to divest from the firm or face a ban on the app. It still faces an uphill battle in the Senate, but President Joe Biden says he will sign it if it passes Congress. Beijing has vowed to take necessary measures to protect its interests. TikTok is owned by Chinese company ByteDance, a Beijing-based firm registered in the Cayman Islands. U.S. lawmakers have expressed concern about the app, saying the data of Americans potentially in Chinese hands makes it a national security risk. TikTok's owners have rejected those accusations. And finally, in the currency markets, at the close of trading today, it cost 155 Jamaican dollars and 51 cents to buy $1 US. It cost 200 Jamaican dollars and 33 cents to buy £1 British pound and 115 Jamaican dollars and 25 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the business report. I'm Robianne Williams. Have yourselves a wonderful evening.
Home is where you put down your roots. So at Sagicor Bank, we designed a mortgage with everything you need to own your home easier. Get up to 100% financing, fast processing time, up to $100,000 cash back to assist with expenses, a competitive interest rate, plus an unsecured loan of up to $2 million to go solar at home, and a special rate on home insurance. Let's help you put down your roots. Call 888-SAGICOR to apply for your Sagicor Bank mortgage. Conditions apply.
Know your numbers and take control of your life. Don't wait till it's too late. Check your doctor today. Yeah. Get the BMI check, your blood pressure check, your blood sugar and cholesterol check. We're living well when we stay on top of our health. Know your numbers and take control of your life. Don't wait till it's too late. Check your doctor today. Know your numbers and take control. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
If it's in the public's interest, it's the nation's business during Nationwide at 5. The nation's business.
The Olympic Games 2024 live from Paris in France, exclusively on Nationwide 90 FM.
The Jamaican star shines bright once again.
Live here halfway through an Olympic final.
This summer, Nationwide 90 FM is coming in hot.
Jamaica to the blacks!
Nationwide 90 FM will be blazing as we bring you the games of the 33rd Olympiad live from the French capital, Paris. 16 fantastic days of competition in 41 sports.
Noblin Williams-Mills coming, McCrory flapping, her arms are waving, and Noblin Williams-Mills coming through for Jamaica's goal.
The station will bring you analysis and live coverage from the opening day of competition, Friday, July 26th to the very last day of action on Sunday, August 11th.
And some parchment, let's go! Oh, what a run!
Everything and anything Paris Olympic Games 2024 can be heard right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
It is a glittering goal for Sharika Jackson, and how they will celebrate that back in Jamaica.
We'll capture the spirit of athleticism. We'll narrate the Olympic fever, define thrilling moments, and report on the blood, sweat, and tears of the world's greatest athletes. Nationwide 90 FM is going to the Paris Olympic Games, and we're taking you with us. Tune into Nationwide 90.3, 90.5, 90.7, and 90.9 for live updates and commentary. We'll be giving the listeners a front row seat to witness excitement, triumph, and memories.
And I think it was a clean sweep for the Jamaicans.
Stay tuned to Nationwide 90 FM 24/7. Experience the Paris Olympic Games 2024 right here on the Revolution in Media Nationwide 90 FM, your Olympic Center. Exclusively on Nationwide 90 FM.
Welcome back. It's 6:38 and it's time for the nation's business. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
I'm Franklin McKnight.
And so we'll get right into it. It's time for the reactions to Julian Robinson's budget debate. The opposition spokesperson on finance made his contribution in the House of Representatives this afternoon. He credited the opposition's People's National Party for their management of the economy the last time they formed a government.
Mr. Speaker, the minister spent some time on Tuesday looking at the history of the economic performance of the country. But very often, whenever the history of our country is told, we tend to neglect a period from 2007 to 2011. And I think it is important for me to put in context what we inherited when we came in 2012. We recall that years from 27 to 2010, there was 14 consecutive quarters of negative growth. We achieved a mere 1.5% growth in 2011. And we understand there was a global recession. So we know that would have been part of it, not all of it. Right? During this period, public debt, unemployment, and poverty all increased. And these are not me saying it. These are the statistics published by PIOJ and other economic sources. This was exacerbated by poor fiscal management because the government of the day abandoned the standby IMF agreement, and that affected. Abandon, well, if you want me to use a different term.
Don't use a different term.
Okay, abandon the standby agreement, and this was confirmed by the IMF in their Article 4 staff report. This meant that we were not just affected by IMF funding, but all the other multilaterals, which include the IDB, the EU, the World Bank, all withdrew support. So really the international financial community had turned its back on Jamaica in 2011. And really, when we came in 2012, we inherited a situation where the government had no agreement with the IMF and really was cut out of the international financial community. Our debt to GDP was 134%, and our viability of a nation was at stake. When we came in 2012 under the leadership of Portia Simpson Miller, with Peter Phillips as finance minister, we managed to renegotiate a new IMF agreement with the support of our international allies, the Black Caucus in the US, which provided a financial lifeline for the country. In 2013, the IMF agreed to provide the necessary financial support, although insisting on stringent austerity measures. Many doubted our ability as a country to meet those conditions, but through careful management and the implementation of robust economic reforms, Jamaica successfully met all the IMF requirements and provided stability in the economy. The Prime Minister, who was the leader of the opposition then, used to say that the PNPs focused on passing the IMF tests but failing the people's tests. But the reality was the passing of those tests and our adherence to fiscal discipline and our efforts in reducing the debt that handed the JLP an economy in 2016 which was more stable and which had more financial fiscal space. During our tenure, we undertook a challenging debt restructuring and committed to maintaining a 7.5% primary budget surplus. By the time we left office, we had reduced the debt to GDP to 120%. We upheld an unparalleled level of fiscal discipline, tightened fiscal policies, and rolled out a comprehensive economic reform program. The program focused on structural reforms to stimulate growth and employment. There were significant fiscal adjustments backed by broad fiscal reforms and debt reduction to ensure the sustainability of public debt while safeguarding our financial stability.
Mr. Robinson says the PNP laid the groundwork for the economy that Jamaica now has with prudent fiscal management.
Mr. Speaker, it was our commitment to macro fiscal stability and prudent fiscal management which rescued the economy. The structural and fiscal reforms we implemented laid the groundwork for the positive macroeconomic stability we enjoy today. We are dedicated to economic stability, Mr. Speaker. We were then and we remain. We remain. The PNP as a government demonstrated fiscal discipline in its last administration, and we are committed to continuing that practice. We met our fiscal targets previously, and we will do so again. So, Madam, Mr. Speaker, I say it because there are some who want to create a narrative about what the last PNP administration did or did not do. And I believe it's important for persons to understand what we did, the groundwork that we laid, which is the basis on which we enjoy the stability that we exist today.
That's Julian Robinson making his budget debate presentation this afternoon. However, the opposition spokesman says despite this, the reality faced by most Jamaicans today is one of poverty and struggle.
Despite the positive economic indicators, the reality on the ground in Jamaica tells a different story. The narrative of macroeconomic stability has not translated into substantial improvements in the lives of the majority of the Jamaican people. The most Jamaicans have to deal with the frustrating hand-to-mouth, can't make ends meet struggle. That is their reality. A significant percentage of our population still live paycheck to paycheck for those who get a paycheck. And for those who don't, it is even more difficult. Mr. Speaker, this is the first year that I have not brought my food pricing charts. I know you were looking forward to seeing them, Nigel, right? And you know why I never bring them? Because the reality is I don't need to bring them. The people have been feeling the effects of the increases in the cost of living. I don't need to tell them what they are because they deal with it every single day when they go to the corner shop, when they go to the wholesale, or when they go to the supermarket.
Julian Robinson. Well, we'll take this break, but when we come back, we'll have reactions to his budget presentation from development economist and chairman and CEO of NCS Enterprises, Dr. Christian Stokes, and chartered accountant Dennis Chung.
Become Team Jamaica certified to shape the future of Jamaica's tourism sector. TPDCO's Team Jamaica, shaping ambassadors for life.
The time by TPDCO's Team Jamaica training program is
6:46.
Get up to $1 million off everything. With the Mitsubishi $1 million sale. Price a splash, save cash, run, come catch the Mitsubishi $1 million sale. Get up to $1 million off on your brand new Mitsubishi ASX or for Hero Sport with the Mitsubishi $1 million sale. Plus 3 years warranty, 2 years free servicing, and 1 year free Amber Tracker. Follow us on social media at Mitsubishi JA for more info. Hurry up and come get this deal while stocks last. Only at Stewart's Automotive Group, South Camp Road, Kingston, and Iron Shawarma Bay. Conditions apply.
Time to pay your tax? Relax! You've got this with your Sagicor Bank Business Credit Card. Use your Sagicor Bank Business Credit Card to pay your taxes and get a 1-month payment holiday. New cardholders get first-year annual fee waived. Plus, you get up to 55 days interest-free and earn unlimited reward points every time you spend. So when you're ready to pay your tax, relax! You've got this. Use your Sagicor Bank Business Credit Card and enjoy the best rewards ever. Conditions apply.
Welcome back. We've just been delivering snippets of Julian Robinson, that's the opposition spokesman on finance's budget presentation this afternoon. And now we're going to be getting reactions from development economist and chairman and CEO of NCS Enterprises, Dr. Christian Stokes, and chartered accountant Dennis Chung. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Good evening.
Dr. Stokes, starting with you, your reaction to Mr. Robinson's presentation.
I listened today, and as a Jamaican, I was very, very happy, and I'll tell you why. Very pleased and hopeful. And I was pleased and hopeful because there's no path to prosperity in Jamaica that can bypass macroeconomic stability. We have to do that, right? And I don't mind the debate and arguments of who wants to claim paternity for economic development. I think, to be fair, those who are fair-minded, Dr. Peter Phillips did tremendous work to get the ball rolling, and Dr. Clark has continued it. But what I see from this is a very clear signal that if government were to change, that macroeconomic stability remains at the top of the list. Now, that matters to me when I'm with a course, J.P. Morgan in New York or, Citibank or so on. They're glad to see this. But it means nothing to the people living in my neighborhood. And the lived experience of the Jamaican has not yet been impacted by this. And out of that, we have seen two things. One is Dr. Clark repeatedly trying to make the link between economic stability and delivering benefits to the people of Jamaica. He said that 24 times in his speech. So he's aware that it is a weakness. He's also aware, coming out of the local government election, that there's no macroeconomic dividend, stability dividend. You don't get any votes for achieving macroeconomic stability. So you understand that he has to deliver something to the people of Jamaica. And you see where Julian Robinson today zeroed in on that. The lived experience continues to be poor. So that is playing out well, but I'll take it as a good sign. We can get into more details. That there's consensus, that there's no path to prosperity outside of macroeconomic stability.
Dennis Chung, your take?
Well, I couldn't have said it better than what Chris said. I totally agree. What is pleasing is that both sides are saying the same thing in terms of stability, but not just in terms of stability, but the both of them have been speaking about productivity. Now, we have had, since 2013, because 2013 is where everything started, everything that happened before that, I think, was a wrong policy, right? Because we never pursued a policy before 2013 of moving the productivity and the macroeconomic needle, right? So since then, I think that we have started to move in the right direction. One of the things that I give the current government for is that they have pushed the needle further by saying, hey, we are not going to rely on growing the economy through new taxes. And that's the difference. So when you listen to Julian Robinson, which I think that he did hit the pain points, right? He spoke about productivity and the thing that Chevron, I've been talking about for a long time, which is transportation.
Yes.
And the impact that transportation can have on productivity. And another thing I've been talking about a lot is using renewables to reduce the oil bill, because those two things that he mentioned is significant, right? Now, he did say that he did give a slide to the infrastructure development, but infrastructure development is key because good capital infrastructure drives productivity also, right? But what is important is that the both of them seems to be converging on it, and what we need to look at to get any distinction really is how you implement, right? Now, what I can say is that over the past few years, we've been seeing a lot of the implementation happening, and that is why you have a 4.2% unemployment, right? But the truth is that even the macroeconomic stability that we've seen before, right, it will not translate to people until we hit those pain points of productivity. So the transportation, the renewables, and one of the things that he said, which struck home to me, is that in 8 years, we're just issuing an RFP for major renewables, right? That is something that I think we've wasted a lot of time with. I like his idea, and I've said it already, that we should be looking at incentivizing in some way persons to go with renewable energy at home through solar, right? Because every mickle make a muckle, and we cannot just improve the lives of people and disposable income, but we can improve the balance of payments with that. So I think Julian spoke to some very good points, right? And I think he's continuing on what Nigel is saying. Now, I didn't expect that Nigel would go into the things like transportation. I expect that the Prime Minister and the other sectoral debates are going to come out with that, but I think they're coming. He hinted at it, and I think that's where they're coming.
Then
Dr. Stokes, I'd love to ask you whether you also subscribe to that idea that maybe it's not the finance minister who would take up the matter of the productivity issue, an issue, as Dennis says, he has been talking about for a long time, but the productivity issue, isn't that also what's going to turn this matter of the feel from the stability, from the economic stability?
Yeah.
Do you believe that as an oversight?
It's not an important. It is the point. It is the point, and Dennis has been talking for years about transportation. But there are a couple of drivers for productivity. And by the way, this is what will raise incomes, raise standard of living. And even though you are, we know that the employment rate is low. That's always a debate, who is in and out of the labor force and whatever. But under the same measurement, it's low now. But it's low at a low level of productivity, right? And Mr. Robinson touched on that, the types of jobs, right? And the argument that he made is really, and I mean, very little to add what Dennis said. It was classic development economics. You're going to grow an development economics. You're going to grow an economy. Productivity is important. Part of the productivity is getting the cost of business down. Renewable energy is important. Transportation is important. But there are two other very important areas. Capital formation, which I think, Dennis, we have been doing very badly on that, certainly in terms of the road construction. But we have been horrible on the biggest opportunity in front of us. We are fortunate enough to still have a young population. The developed world cannot say that they have an aging population. So we have an opportunity to drive human capital development, given our young population. But it only works with skills development, training, education, and places for these persons to either as entrepreneurs go out and make an impact on the economy, or work in businesses that where they're productive and can be paid at a level to raise the overall level. So those two things outside of transportation, the human capital, and he touched on education and heart and so on, is so important. And that is the one I believe that we are falling so far behind right now, and of course the ease of doing business has improved, but the cost of doing business, unfortunately, on power alone is restrictive. All right, so I was really glad to see him touch on these. There's no secret, there's no magic in it. Implementation becomes important, and for better or for worse, we see Dr. Clark implementing and having a focus on implementation. He spent a whole section day before yesterday on the contract process. That's because it's holding up implementation. So again, the pain points were hit. We have opportunities. We have the resources. We need to focus on getting that productivity way up.
And that's where I want to put it to you, gentlemen, starting with you, Dennis Chung. As part of the opposition's contributions to the budget debates, it usually falls to them to provide an alternative to what they would consider the best way forward. But I'm wondering, did that come out in Mr. Robinson's presentation? I heard a lot of critique saying this is not being done right, that is not being done right. But I'm wondering if, or maybe I missed it, I don't recall hearing much about what a PNP administration would do differently had they had the helm or when they have the helm.
Well, I think from what I heard, the main thing that they said is that they would have implemented much more quickly the renewable energy projects. And that is a key one. But outside of that, I don't know that there is anything else really that they can say. Well, they spoke about the crime situation and the use of SOEs, right? Those are the two.
Well, that's a critique.
Yeah, that's a critique. So they didn't really suggest a solution, but those are the two main things, right? So they didn't really suggest a solution to it. They understood the points that were there. They spoke about the transportation system and what needs to be done, but that is already being done, right? So I don't think that based on what we know needs to happen, that there's really much more. So I wouldn't say that there's anything to criticize the current government about what they're not doing. what you could speak about is the pace of implementation. And certainly the procurement issue was a huge one holding it up, right? But there's not much you can say they are not looking at from a policy issue. But what is the pace of implementation? And those are the things that I think that he would have to talk about. Because the truth is that it's really, as Chris said, transportation, renewables, right? He spoke about development, and the main inhibitor to developing young human capital is crime and law and order issues, because it affects them more, right? So those are the main things. If we can hit those things, if we can, let us use the example of just public transportation. We spend over $200 billion a year of productive time in traffic, right? And we spend also about 30% or over $700 million US a year on oil imports relating to transportation. In terms of productive hours that we lose because of transportation, just think about people picking up children in the day, right? And think about the person leaving university in the United States or New York who does not have to worry about car payments, and think about the one in Jamaica who has to worry about getting a car, right? That is where the productivity issue is. So they spoke about those issues. The key for me now is for them to tell me, and I think it's going to come out in the sectoral debate, how are you going to implement that, and when are we going to see that? That, I think, is going to be the only differentiating factor between the both of them.
So, Dr. Stokes, I mean, it's one thing to say that, yes, we still have problems. As Janice puts it, the government is attempting to work through those problems. So, how has Mr. Robinson put forward, say, we are the better alternative for the Jamaican people?
Well, so he started out on the back foot a little bit, setting the record straight that the last iteration of the PNP government did act responsibly, all right? Certainly fiscally and set a trend, which is fine. Now, if we look at the areas that he spoke about that could possibly impact the budget in any meaningful way, he spoke about PATH, for example. I think it came down to like $104 a day, and nobody can live on that. Fine, but so would the PNP increase that, and by how much, and how would you finance it, and what effect would that have on the macroeconomy and the budget? You see, you always have to come back to that. You can't have both, right? So I don't know if anybody's going to get into any detail. He did criticize it. Yes, we know that it's low, but are you saying that it should be $500 a day, and what does that mean for the budget, and how are you going to pay for it? It didn't go down that road. He spoke about SOEs instead of social intervention. Okay, and by the way, he interestingly, he did concede at the outset that both the JCF and the JDF are receiving more funds.
Yes, are receiving, yes.
But, social intervention there. So, and then essentially, let's get a sense of, kind of picking at the edges, but nothing that would fundamentally recast the budget, which to me is not a bad thing.
And gentlemen, I find that interesting, because one thing that Dr. Clark did as part of his presentation on Tuesday was to point out that we're increasing the income tax threshold by 1.7. Yes, some people might be disappointed, but he went on to say it's going to cost us $9 billion to do it here. It will cost $21 billion at 2.1 million, and then he said 46 at 3. And so I was expecting, going into today's budget presentation, that Mr. Robinson would say, okay, we have put forward a $3 million income tax threshold. This is where we potentially see the money coming from. And I have to say, thoroughly disappointed that there was literally no mention of the income tax threshold.
Sharon, you believe that anybody's going to go in the house and commit suicide by saying that? No, listen, let me tell you something. You see, even the 200,000 that Dr. Clark gave us, and you see the path and that sort of thing. those things are not going to drive economic improvement for anybody sustainably, you know. Because if you have increases in income to people without productivity improvements, you're going to have inflation. So let us be clear. The key points that we need to hold on to are the infrastructure work, the transportation, the renewables, the movement of the inhibitors to the procurement, things that drive productivity. That is going to give the Jamaican people, and Julian Robinson spoke about heart also, which is always a pain point for me also, that it should be doing much more for the economy in terms of getting people skilled. But those are the things that's going to drive sustainable development for people, not the things of giving away money like we've done for many, many years before. That's the only thing that's going to do it.
Did either of you gentlemen hear his criticism early in the piece about Dr. Clark not properly establishing how he was going to be funding the budget, how the budget was going to be financed? He said that Dr. Clark mentioned revenue measures which would be financed with $45 billion in estimated flows from the securitization of receivables. And he was saying he doesn't know what that means, and it could mean government has some money owed to it or some assets. Did you hear that, and is that a legitimate criticism?
Go
ahead, Chris.
You know, securitization is a common way of regaining some liquidity. I think.
Sorry, can you just explain that to us, Dr. Stokes? Securitization of receivables.
And we have people. So let's say that you have people out on the road owe you 100 million, right? And they owe it to you, so it's a receivable on your books. And by the way, Dennis will be much better able to understand it. But so you say to a third party, listen, you give me 50 million in cash now, and you go out and you collect the 100 million. All right? That's just by way of an example. All right? I think Julian Robinson's legitimate concern, although you know it's too early to say that it is in fact lacking in transparency because it may yet come out. But it was not explained in any detail, you know, and it becomes important who got it, through what process, what are the what's the discount rate, and so forth. Those are fair questions, but certainly, you know, in my world, you know, raising funds through securitization is completely normal.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. That's exactly what it is. It's basically money you're going to get in the future, you're just discounting it and getting it now. And that's how you're going to finance the budget. One of the things that I liked that Julian said, though, was he said the money that was received for the hedge fund, some of that should really be used for outfitting renewables in the economy. Yeah. And I like that suggestion. That was a very good suggestion from him. And I think that's something that we should look at.
Then just a final question from me to you, gentlemen. The budget presentation overall from Mr. Robinson, how would you look at it? Because I suppose one could say it's a far more mature presentation because it lacked a lot of the usual grandiose promises that tend to come with these kinds of budget presentations.
I'll go with that, Chris.
Yeah, as I said to begin with, for persons like myself and Dennis, that you've been around and you know that you can't take grandstanding to the shop, I'm glad. And that's how I started. I'm happy to see that. And as I said, whoever wants to claim paternity, that is a secondary discussion. The fact is, both parties are committed to macroeconomic stability. There's nothing that's upending the boat, either on the side of the JLP or in the response from the PNP. Nothing that is, you know, upending it. Everything about productivity, I'm sure Dr. Clark is very clear on that. All right, and that's a major challenge that remains for the country. But I was glad to see that, you know, there was no, as people expected, election budget. And we've been through that. You blow up the economy and you spend 10 years in a financial crisis. So we need to put that behind us and remain stable and committed to principles of macroeconomic stability and put our attention to efficiency, reducing operating costs in the economy, and improving productivity. And I believe that both parties are on that wicket.
And Dennis?
No, I totally agree with Chris. I mean, I think it was a responsible presentation by Julian. I think that he did well. What I would have looked for is more solutions, but, being in opposition, you might not want to talk about that, or might be leaving it for the opposition leader, and that's what we need to understand, that the Minister of Finance and the opposition spokesman of finance don't necessarily have to come with all the things because you want a leader to get that. The only thing I would disagree with Chris and Chevron is when he says we've been around for a while. Not me, him and Franklin, but not me.
Thank you.
Chartered accountant Dennis Chung and development economist and chairman of CEO of NCS Enterprises, Dr. Christian Stokes. Thank you, gentlemen. I suppose all eyes will now be on Mr. Golding when he makes his presentation on Tuesday.
Yeah, man. All right, guys. Cool.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, after this, we're going to be taking your calls. It's 710, and the numbers are 630-9371-4 and 618-825. 8255. Come chat with us.
Home is where you put down your roots. So at Sagicor Bank, we designed a mortgage with everything you need to own your home easier. Get up to 100% financing, fast processing time, up to $100,000 cash back to assist with expenses, a competitive interest rate, plus an unsecured loan of up to $2 million to go solar at home, and a special rate on home insurance. Let's help you put down your roots. Call 888-SAGICOR to apply for your Sagicor Bank mortgage. Conditions apply.
More savings, more choices. Get active with Active Home Center. The one-stop shop for everything for your home. We have more savings, more choices, unbelievable prices. Wide selection with the latest style. The kitchen, bathroom, right down to the tile. Buy the hottest items on spot, don't miss out. Best options under one roof, no doubt. More savings, more choices.
Visit us in store or online at www.activehomecenter.com.
We have more savings, more choices.
Nationwide 90 FM, the station for the very latest in news and current affairs, will broadcast live from the groundbreaking ceremony of the Landillo facility. On Friday, March 15, Cliff Hughes Online will be on the ground in Landillo, Westmoreland to inform Jamaica about this new revelation. You don't want to miss this groundbreaking initiative. If you can't attend, then tune in to Nationwide 90 FM from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's a live broadcast of the groundbreaking ceremony of the Landillo facility during Cliff Hughes Online, Friday, March 15 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Ministry of National Security.
I'm Dennis Brooks.
I'm Marlon Campbell.
I'm Floyd Green.
And I'm Garth Williams. Catch us on the Jamaican Dads podcast right here on Nationwide 90 FM, Thursdays at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m.
The Jamaican Dads podcast is all about providing men with a healthy, safe, and functional forum to tackle many of the taboo topics that concern our masculinity.
Like everyone else out there, we're dads of varying amounts of experience who come from different backgrounds and often view the world differently.
We're definitely not perfect, but we are all brethren and we're all committed to this piece of rock called Jamaica.
Too often, there are no safe spaces for men to explore the issues which are important to us.
Plus, most of the content out there about parenthood is produced by women, for women. So we think it is important that we be the change we want to see.
Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Jamaican Dads with a Z.
And definitely join us here on Nationwide 90 FM every Thursday at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m. for the Jamaican Dads podcast. It's a revolution in media.
(7:13) and we're taking your calls. And Richie, you're on the line. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chabon. Teacher.
Good evening, Richie. Good evening,
Yes, sir.
Richie.
I listen your position on finance. Mr. What, Robinson?
Yes, Julian Robinson.
Yes, Julian
First
Robinson.
thing he said, that children coming out of school cannot read and write. And I want to remind him about this conference speech where the opposition that I'm going to teach Patois in school. Mr. Robinson, do you remember it? He said, I'm going to teach Patois in school because it's our language, it's our culture, and it's widely accepted. So children coming to school, uneducated, can't read and write, and he's going to teach Patois in school. You know what I believe Mark Gordon is up to? He wants a nation of illiterate that he can tie a chain around the neck and lead them like and tie the chain around a so-called Rastaman neck and to lead us as back from Master. I want to tell Mark Gordon that Patois is an African culture, it's not a Jamaican culture, so you don't come and claim it doesn't belong to you. My next point, I talk about macroeconomics. It does not start at a day. It started 62 years ago when Bustamante was Prime Minister. Then you have Hugh Shearer, second. And that time, it was pound, shilling, and pence. And by the twice time of the various country, Michael Manley come to destroy it. You find the dollar change from pound, shilling, and pence, 1969, September. Mr. Sago won election 1980. It was the last day of October. And he bring back the capitalism country with Michael Manley run out. Start to grow economy. Start investing, get back the capitalism country, start to grow economy. Take dollar as 5 to 1. Then Patrick Manning of Trinidad and Tobago seek economic policies from Mr. Sago, grow the economy and take it at 6 to 1. Then Mr. Manley win the election back from Mr. Sago 1989. Pass it down to PJ. PJ implement a policy cheaper to import more than to produce. Send the country crashing. Then they think that the country pay borrow money at 15% interest rate. They jack it up to 70% and destroy the country. So many people run out of business. I can remember I had a couple in Mandeville commit suicide the wickedest kind of way. The husband sent the wife first. These days they were 70s. The husband sent the wife first. And she jumped down to a cliff and killed herself, and he jumped down to it. A bank manager in Spanish Town shot himself in the bank. And he go on from there. So the point I'm making though, the dollar slide from, make it back up again. When Mr. Gordon become Prime Minister, he had was to borrow the same amount of money that the country owed to put back the country on the footing. So the reason why the dollar reached 100 and had to 1 is because of the TMP party. So they now go come and talk about the economy is growing and people are feeling it. The problem is, like how Patrick Manning picked the land of it at 6 to 1 until now. The dollar should be at 550 to 1, and nobody would have anything to complain. If a person defecating to a person's yard is not the person who in the yard to go clean it up, So when Mr. Parsons starts bring back whatever they call it now, you have a right to do it because it's their party bringing the country where it is. So no matter about the economy growing and people not feel it on the ground, it is their party the cause of it. So we need to know that the younger generation does not know the history of PMP party, But you see the thing about me now, I start following party when I was youth, and I don't have a short memory. You see, understand the point I'm making? They are the cause of the destruction in this government here. So nobody come like no one come play politics and take people fool. Margot will become Prime Minister in this country. You hear me?
Yes, Richie.
Margot know that what they are trying to do, they are trying to scam the election to put some runs on the board. So in couple years, the younger generation, we can't win this election, and for no can't win this election, we will never come back, we will never see Jamaica House again. TMP party will never see Jamaica House again. So that's what I have to say.
Richie, I wanted to make sure that you get your point out before I critiqued it. The first one then, this matter about what you mean Patois is not Jamaican, sir?
In their conference speech, Mark Gordon said, I am going to teach Patois in school. He said it is our language, it's our culture, and it's widely accepted in the world. When they have the conference speech, that's what Mark Gordon said.
All right.
If you don't believe me, pay the record, it's there.
All right, but I think there's a far cry from saying that you're going to teach someone Patois rather than to suggest that people are leaving school illiterate. You can be literate and speak Patois.
Illiterate.
But you can be illiterate and speak Patois. This is not a matter of it's an either or.
He says he's going to teach it in school.
And I don't think there's any issue with that.
Yes, of course. Then if you then can read and write already, what are you going to teach them what they know? Look at it now. Look at it this way. You know how much Jamaicans right now youth in Jamaica can't go into elevator because they can't read and write, and if they're going there, they can't find a way out.
But what? No, but what does that have to do with teaching Patois in school? We cannot teach Patois in English.
I am saying that we should encourage the youth to continue to study English and get themselves educated.
And I believe that both can be accomplished. Can it not be?
What? Teaching English?
English and Patois.
English and Patois. You know, make sure you teach them what they already know. Teach them what they don't know.
But Patois can be used to engage people in terms of learning English.
Repeat that.
Patois can be used to engage people in terms of learning English.
Brethren, I'm going to tell you something. You see, if that should happen, you know the amount of money is going to cost is government to buy, to even parents first, to buy excessive books, to get excessive teachers, and all those things. You know how much money that is going to cost? Teachers, parents already overburdened to buy books in school. Children are is already, burdened with these books they carry to school. You think that would be a good idea?
All right.
Richie, have you ever listened to the people who know about language, studied languages, and teach language? Like Dr. Carlin Cooper, for example, from the university, former professor there. Have you ever heard what they have to say about how children learn English here in Jamaica? What the impediments to that are? Have you ever listened to them? How they advocate?
No, I didn't listen to them.
Okay. All right. Well, they make a very strong point. Which I don't necessarily agree with. I don't necessarily agree with that, I must say. But they make a very strong and convincing point that many of the children who are learning English, it's like a foreign language to them. It should be taught to them as you teach a foreign language, as if you were teaching Spanish or Greek, and that they should be taught in the language that they speak out on the playing field, at the canteen, in their homes, when they're chatting to their friends. And that's the language, the Jamaican language, which some people call Patois. And that's what a lot of people who are involved in languages believe.
I am saying that is what we already know. We need to.
So you must use, that's the point they make. They must allow the children to use what they know in learning other things.
Yes. Yes,
and don't try to make them try to learn English.
Because they already know it.
All right. Perhaps sometime you might listen to what some of them are saying about how we teach English and perhaps why the results are so appalling.
I'm saying, Brethren, I'm saying we children already know Patois. They know it deep. It's our culture. But in terms of English, the one that's going to come into school can't read and write, they don't know nothing about English, and that's what they need to focus on, learning English.
All right, Richie.
And when they learn English, that will elevate them.
All right, Richie, we hear you.
Okay, heard you, Richie.
Carl, you're on the line.
Evening, Shabba.
Evening, Carl.
Good evening.
Mr. Stone and Mr. Chung struggle this evening to find something concerning what Dr. Stowe struggle concerning what Julian come with this evening. Doesn't work a waste paper basket. And I will put it to you now why it doesn't work.
No man, Carl, that's not true. You heard about it. You heard his comments on productivity.
You're going to listen what I'm saying, Mr. McKnight.
No man, but it's not a one-way thing.
Hold on, Mr. McKnight.
I'm listening to you all the time.
Mr. McKnight.
I'm asking you whether you heard the segment that he spoke about productivity.
You can't have a shadow finance minister and Golden tell we say we must raise the threshold to 300% or 3%. 3 million.
3 million. 3 million. 3 million.
And you have the opposition finance minister come this evening and in dodge away from that completely. You know, come on, sir, right? You should have moved some of the money that you invest in the police force and put peace here so to carry up that. Move some from the education ministry and put it here so to carry up the threshold. Him said nothing about that. Tell me, say, when I say a foolishness is a mad night.
You know, Carl, I agree with you on that assessment, you know, because one would expect that it would form part of the presentation.
Exactly.
Because, and I hear people saying, but they don't have access to the full statistics from the government that Nigel Clark would. But I recall, because I spoke with Mr. Golding on I believe it was the Day of the Throne speech, when he said we have costed it and we have a explanation as to how we are going to fund this $3 million income tax threshold. So I was expecting now to hear more details as to the funding arrangements they want to put forward for that $3 million threshold.
Exactly.
Because I recall when the Holness administration was in opposition and they put forward that $1.5 million plan, the first question everybody asked was, how are you going to pay for it?
Exactly.
And they had to come to the Jamaican people with an explanation as to how they were going to pay it. I mean, one can make the argument that they did not meet the initial 1.5 million in terms of the actual intent of how they were going to pay it, but they still had to come up with a plan. And I would like to hear the plans from the opposition so we can critique how suitable and viable it is to fund a $3 million income tax threshold. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask that.
Hold on a little. Even 2 weeks ago, Mr. Holness, in a campaign, Mr. Holness, they were going to bring, if anything, we look at it for 202 or something. And the minute the PMP jump out of the block, they want to know how it's going to finance. You remember that also?
Yes.
Thank you. And to hear the shadow minister came today with an empty basket. What you think is all done so here? Listen to you, Julian. Julian, it's not all done so here listening to you.
I think the most charitable thing we can say, we should at least await the opposition leader, Mark Golding, to discuss the matter. His budget presentation still comes up on Tuesday. He has the opportunity to put forward a plan.
Anything more concerning it then?
I believe we should give the opposition leader the opportunity to at least respond to the notion of increasing the income tax threshold to $3 million.
Absolutely, because they raised it, as Carl is saying, both Mr. Robinson and Mr. Golding both have raised this matter of this threshold. And Mr. Golding is yet to speak.
But hold on, Mr. McKnight.
When Mr. Golding doesn't say something about that, then that would be a pretty...
Fair, no, Mr. McKnight. We have to be fair. Mr. McKnight, 2 to 3 weeks ago in the campaign, the Prime Minister said we're going to move it up to 202 or something. And the PMP was out of the block the next year. So the government must tell them how them are going to pay for that. And for months now, you're telling me, say, you are going to move it up to $3 million. And today you come, the shadow minister, if they should win election tomorrow morning, him would be the Minister of Finance. We must be fair.
I don't think you want a dialogue doing a call. I am saying, and Siobhan as well has said, that the presentation by the opposition includes the finance minister. You heard the two gentlemen who were speaking earlier pointing out that some of the information and details on some issues will come out even in the sectoral debate. But we all know that the opposition's position will be put by the shadow finance minister and the opposition leader. And the opposition leader is yet to speak.
Okay, I'll say nothing more. I will wait till Tuesday evening. I will make no call tomorrow. I will wait till Tuesday evening. I'll hold my breath till Tuesday evening. Mr. McKnight, I'll hold my breath till Tuesday evening. We are into serious time now, and when time we hear people come and say things, we must think about it, we must spin it around, and we must look at it.
But look at it this Look at it this way, Carl. I mean, I believe it is at least a positive in terms of the Jamaican democracy that nobody can make a claim that they're going to do this and do that without somebody coming to them and asking them, how are you going to pay for it? The times are just making a promise. The times are just making a statement and not being able to back it up have passed. And I think everybody reasonably expects the opposition to give an explanation as to how they intend to fund that $3 million income tax threshold.
Okay, fair enough, Sarah. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm finished now. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I am going to repeat myself. Julian Robinson is the shadow minister of finance.
He is, and no, Carl, don't get me wrong. I agree with you, because the matter of the income tax threshold, as we rightfully expected the spokesman, the Minister of Finance, to discuss it, which he did, it should fall to the spokesman on the opposition side to discuss it as well. But I still say that we still have the opportunity to hear from the opposition leader. So I at least hope that the opposition leader will discuss it.
All right. Well, Tuesday I'm going to take half day from work and buy 6 Heineken and sit down. That means to say, by the time he will
but the Heineken might distort your
then that's
vision.
John, that's mean to say me not listen to but here coming no say he won't be able to work out what Nigel Clark did to that foolishness that then came with. And point out how much it would have cost and people backing away from it. So you won't hear no discussion around it. And Nigel Clark dealt with it Tuesday, and that is the problem now. That's why Julian couldn't touch it nowhere this evening. And that's what I'm trying to point out to you now. That you won't hear nothing about it Tuesday evening.
So you think Mark Golding is going to just skip over that matter?
Oh, you have to skip over it. If he ever thinking they can come with it Tuesday evening. You think $45 billion are easy money to patch up back in our budget?
Oh, no. We agree on that one, Carl. $46 billion is not something that's just going to magically appear.
Thank you. I mean, say what Nigel Clark did. What Nigel and Miss Siago went and said something Tuesday evening. Said it doesn't matter who win the government, we should keep Nigel Clark as the Minister of Finance. What Nigel Clark did, him point out how much he thinks them would have cost. And not even Mark Golding can touch it Tuesday evening. Have a nice evening.
Have a good evening, Carl.
All right, Carl.
We're going to take a break and come back with your calls. Remember, the numbers are 630-937-124 and 618-8255.
The Integrity Commission Statutory Declaration form has changed. Download the new form and file securely within your organization before March 31. The time by the Integrity Commission is
7:32.
Did you know that many of my schoolmates have an unhealthy diet, especially at school? And now 23% of them are overweight and or obese? And so one less sugary drink at my school may mean one friend less,
or 2 or 3,
at risk of cavities or diabetes. And if we're served less foods high in saturated fats, sugar and sodium, it may reduce our risk from obesity, heart disease and high blood pressure.
The solution is simple, right? Act now.
Let's get unhealthy foods and beverages out of our schools.
A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica and partners.
Faithful, you're on the line. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. McKnight. Good evening, Siobhan.
Good evening,
Okay,
Faithful.
let me start by saying, let me start this here. I don't like to mention other callers' names when I'm talking, but I think oftentimes Richie is trying to live in the past. He is oftentimes pointing out the wrong that the PNP did from way back when. I think we are living in the future now. There are two things that Julian said that I surely agree with. Two. I think what Nigel Clark and the government did with the restructuring of the debt, marvelous. And I remember there was a parliament that this MP from Main State, so this St. Catherine, Bobby Pickers game. He said to the government that we are suffering, try to do something for us. And the government succeeded and did it. So I'm saying the restructuring is one of the best, but the best can work out to be the worst in their side. I think Julian advise them that they should pay attention to the workers and try close and try finish the deal and don't keep it hanging out for so long. Like in my view, can come back to around them. That's one.
I mean, which deal you're talking about? The compensation package?
Compensation, and I think it is dragging out too long. That is one. And as I say, I was the right is sufficient. It was Siobhan and Mr. Hughes was talking to Nigel about a month or 3 weeks ago. And he said I get in 300 bus in 3 years. That means 100 bus a year. In my view, I don't think 100 bus a year is sufficient because based on the traffic that we have to carry, I think the misery index is going to remain if we don't get more than 100 bus a year. And if you want to solve the problem to ease the pain that most people are undergoing, because I sometimes impacted by that. So I see the misery index continue with the 100 bus a year that's coming. I think you need far more than that. That's two. And the final one I would say, I know other people on call. The final thing I would say, I heard in the press brief that the government, Mr. Morgan, say that the Portmore become a parish case is ready to go to the House of Parliament. I think they should, the first thing they have, I think that should come out and deal with it once and for all. If they and lessen the time where we have to have this super confusion, and I think that would be better for them.
I hear you. That last suggestion actually makes sense enough, Faithful, because you should lessen the time between. You don't want to have a lot of confusion going into a general election, which we have in 15 months at most.
And they did the last minute and find themselves in a lot of problem, and they can't seem to understand.
And I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit of pushback from certain corners when you make those adjustments in the boundary. So you want to get that out of the way as soon as possible. You don't want that lingering into a next election.
The Archie point that I mentioned, if they don't deal with all of them, it's going to have a great impact on them. Because as I said, the restructuring of it, marvelous. I think it should have done a long time ago, and they are brave enough to take it on. But to keep it hanging around for such a long time, it can come back to harm them. And the Portmore issue, I think the first sitting of the House of Parliament, I think they should go through that and get everything out of the way, and they so that everybody can have a clear manner and in terms of campaigning. And if I should one more thing on the table, I think the way they set out to place the candidate, they try to wait until the last minute again. It takes them too much time to do what they are doing. As again I say, I wait for the words. I think it's sufficient. Thank you, sir.
All right, Faithful.
Okay, Faithful.
All right, protecting Jamaica, you're on the line.
Good evening, Siobhan. Good evening, Mr. McKnight. How are you doing?
Evening.
Good evening, sir. Fantastic, man.
Okay, good. To be fair to Julian, his presentation wasn't bad. You know, and if I was paying attention and I realized that the PNP really run out of attacks against the government. So literally what you have been seeing in recent times is that the PNP is now aligning themselves with the policy because they realize that the country is really going in the right direction, even though they say it's going in the wrong direction. And it only makes sense politically for them to align themselves with the policy, seeing that it was really, that some things were a continuation from Dr. Peter Phillips. I believe that the government should start to take ownership of the economy. Stop allowing the pundits to continuously refer to the past. And I believe in that strongly. Start taking ownership of the economy.
You don't think the government's been doing that, no?
Pardon me?
You don't think the government has been doing that? I mean, the government has been...
I don't think they've been doing that. I think they've been allowing too many loose arguments about other things in the public domain. I mean, Dr. Peter Phillips did some heavy lifting. But before Dr. Peter Phillips, fiscal accountability frameworks legislation started under Bruce Golding. So, the discussion cannot only be about what Dr. Peter Phillips did. Bruce Golding, his time, the IMF deal went off track. Not because the government was careless, because in the middle of a recession, which Julian admitted today that there was a global recession, in the middle of a recession in 2008, Bruce Golding administration was giving public sector workers an increase. At the time, it was said to be one of the highest increases in decades. So I think between 2007 to 2011, the government's intentions were in the right place. Julian Robinson spoke about debt restructuring in their term between 2012 to 2015. But debt restructuring started under Bruce Golding between 2007 to 2011. So the discussion...
But remember, Protector, that there was a period when the IMF agreement went off the rails. It was basically abandoned.
Right. It did, but I believe,
and that is oddly short.
There need to be, just like FinTech, I think there need to be a deeper investigation as to why. The economists know why. Economists, they know why. Because to tighten the belt anymore, this is my thinking, to tighten the belt anymore on the Jamaican people, as the IMF demanded. I don't think that Bruce Golding was willing to do that. And we are
but then the belt was tightened, but because of that failing, the belt was tightened when, you remember, the financial centers weren't looking in this direction at all, that Jamaica was essentially an economic barrier.
That's true. I mean, I really called to ask a question, but one of my things is, it really, sometimes it has made me laugh. When you hear the PNP talk these days, in recent years, it's as if the PNP just started in 2016, in 2011. All they talk about is the period 2011 and the Porsche Simpson to 2016. That's all they talk about, 2012 to 2016. But we do not forget PNP, and we will not forget. Every time the PNP in a power and mash up the country, okay, the period, they had to stick by the IMF deal because IMF stand up over them with a big whip. And I believe that had it not been for the IMF, whole heap more run with it would have gone. Anyway, let me not take up too much more of the time. The question I thought to ask Chevron and Mr. McKnight, didn't Mr. Golding say on the campaign trail that when them win the election, he will boot out Andrew and he will be the new Prime Minister? Can you please tell me when will Mr. Golding be sworn in? Because you're about 6 years in ceremony.
I want to answer your question by asking you a question. Based on what you heard from Mr. Robinson today, we can't base it on what Mark Golding will say, but based on what you heard from Mr. Robinson today, do you see a alternative government in the People's National Party?
No. And guess what? No Jamaican should see the alternative government in the People's National Party. The People's National Party have a party structure, and their structure is handouts, And a whole heap of money in Jamaica now, and that's why they clamour to come back in a power. Because they just want to come dish out and share out and fling left, right, and center. No Jamaican, no well-thinking Jamaican who means Jamaica well should not see an alternative government in the PNP. None. And I am still waiting. I really hope you can answer, because that's another level of deception from the PNP. When we win, we have kicked them out of office, and Mark Jefferson Golding is going to be your new Prime Minister. Please, when will Mr. Golding be sworn in? Come in a year the date yet. I want to go to that ceremony. Anyway,
I can't answer that question because that question will be determined by voters when the election is called. So I can't answer that question.
I hope the people of Jamaica are paying attention. The PNP ban 2012? Jamaica is 62 this year. Jamaica is 62 this year. PNP have been in power for about 35 years of Jamaica's independent life. Okay? And if Jamaica is just struggling to come out of debt and poverty and giving people jobs, the lowest unemployment rate in the history of Jamaica. If Jamaica is just getting to this point, the questions need to continue. What were the PNP doing during their times in office? We know, but the questions need to continue. Because guess what? They are behaving like they were just birthed in 2012 because they have one little good patch. Because IMF have a big whip over them. One little good patch, 2012 to 2015. One little responsible patch them have in their history. Just that little spec. And all of a sudden, them holy. Good night, guys.
Good night, Protection J. Cedric, you're on the line.
Yes, good evening, sir. How you doing?
Doing good. How are you, sir?
Good. I'm all right. The other thing, I'm echoing my back. I couldn't. If I echo. But Mr. McKnight.
Yes, sir. Yes, Cedric.
Why do we keep moving the goalposts every time questions are asked about the PNP's behavior?
How
Why
so?
do we keep doing that?
Which goalposts are moving now? What particularly are you talking about?
The band asked you earlier, why didn't the government bring its alternative to the government increase of the minimum wage?
The tax threshold? No, the tax threshold.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? This is what is giving them the talking point. Because they have nothing more to say. They can't say anything different. When the Labour Party says they're going to do this, everybody wants to hear how they're going to do it. You included, because I've heard that before, Mr. You was included in all of that. All the people who talk on radio and everywhere want to know how are they going to do it. So why don't we want to ask the PNP or they tell us how are they going to do it? They've come to us on many occasions before without manifestos, without telling us what they're going to do it. And because of people, they use the pain points of people vote for them. And when they come in, it's worse than ever. Why don't you tell them this? Why don't you confront them? We must not allow these people to continue to say what they're saying and get away with it because it's not so. Mr. McKnight, you're better than that. Siobhan might have a little idea about it and he does his research, but you, Mr. McKnight, live through it like I have. So you know the reality.
But in the end, in a democracy, it is the people who decide these things, who determine who comes in and who goes out. And we have a system in Jamaica, which is a democracy, where both sides have the ability and have the opportunities to tell why they would be better or why they would do better. And that's what prevails. And as the gentleman was saying a while ago, for example. Yes.
And you know that. They have not done it. They have not been doing it for years now.
No, but if they don't do it, then how would they be able to? If they don't do it and they intend to, how would they be able to gain the trust and gain the votes of the people? That's the only way you can come to power in Jamaica,
Yes,
still.
but listen, you are around the 1970s, 80s, when the country was raised by 25% of its income to GDP. The Labour Party came in and rebuilt it. And because of the propaganda and all like that in 1980, the Labour Party lost the election. So it can be done because of what they keep on saying and saying and saying. Because some people are not thinking. And so they allow themselves.
Oh man, but you have to have a greater belief in the Jamaican people, that you can talk to them and that they will understand.
No, mister.
You don't believe that you can talk to most Jamaican people and they will understand.
Mr. McKnight.
Outside of what they live today. And you don't believe that what people are living is also helping them to make up their minds about what exists.
I don't know because the local government election doesn't tell me that. You don't tell me that.
What it tells you?
It tells me that people are still holding on to propaganda. They're still holding on to that. They're still holding on to the noise. They're still holding on to popular saying. That's what they're holding on to.
Carla, I agree with you, that matter of the $3 million must be addressed because they have put it forward. Mr. Golding himself has specifically said that they have costed it and that they have an understanding as how they're going to fund it. And I believe they should present those plans. It was up to the opposition spokesman on finance to have presented those plans. He did not. But it is not the end of the road there. Mr. Golding still has the opportunity to correct the mistake made by the opposition spokesman on finance. He has the opportunity on Tuesday to address it.
They didn't have anything to say. They just throw something out in the air and that's it. They think people are gonna buy it. So they keep on doing that, Mr. Chevron. They get away with this thing all the time. The people of Jamaica don't know what to do.
So let's look at it this way, Carla. They have a reprieve till Tuesday to explain their plan. They don't let them get away with it, They have a reprieve that they have on Tuesday. Mr. Golding can go up and say, this is where we're going to find $45 billion to fund a $3 million income tax threshold.
Let's scrutinize that. And another thing I want to say for a long time. People keep talking about what Mr. Phillips did during that 3-4 year period. Labour Party left government in 89. The country was growing. Am I right, Mr. McKnight? The country grew. The country had a healthy economy. What did they do when they get in? What was under the leadership?
They got nearly 18 years of governance, repeatedly going to the polls.
What did they do with it? These are the questions we must confront them with.
Yes, but I'm saying that people repeatedly voted for them over that those 18 years.
Why? Why did they do that?
And therefore, if you were, for example, in the opposition's side at the time, or on the JLP side, you'd have to consider now why would people keep voting for this party which was doing so badly? You'd have to ask yourself that, and then you'd have to learn some lesson to take you forward after that.
Well, because of ignorance, and Leopard doesn't believe in that. I don't think he believes that. They don't believe
I don't think that the Jamaican people are ignorant in the sense that you're saying it, sir. I think that the Jamaican people have their lived experiences, can be appealed to, can be spoken to, and both parties have the opportunity to do that.
Well, no, people have better understanding, should be able to. Just like how the Prime Minister goes out there and he tries to explain, people who knows what he's saying and understand what he's saying must also, for the country, not for the party, for the country, say this is that and that is that. You don't just accept what, it is crazy, man, it's crazy. And this is the reason why I am really perturbed about, because these people are not thinking. They are not thinking, sir, and Jamaica will be, I don't think it can happen, I hope it doesn't happen, but Jamaica would be far worse.
All right, we have to take some other callers. Thank you for calling.
All right. Cool.
Thank you.
Colin, you're on the line.
How you doing? Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening, Colin.
Mr. McKnight, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I want to thank you for at least bringing a little sanity some of the time to some of the discussion. Because I heard you call a while ago asking for the PNP to explain the $3 million threshold and that they want to hold the PNP accountable in opposition. But the question is, who held the GLP accountable when they said that they were going to the 1.5 revenue neutral? And that 1.5, I want to remind Jamaica that it cost us $34 billion and it was supposed to be revenue neutral. Now, what was the account that the government was held to for that? Because sometimes I still hear them talking about 1 point as if was delivered the way it was promised. It was not. So therefore,
let's put out something else on that, caller, because the PNP at the time said it could not happen. It was essentially a loose election plan that was not be afforded by the administration.
And we were proved to be right. They couldn't do it revenue neutral. they could not have delivered it revenue neutral. It cost us $34 billion.
Yes, but the point wasn't that it was. I don't know if you remember the present Commerce Minister, Auburn Hill, putting out some of the data at that point. But what I'm saying, you should remember that the PNP, the opposition at the time, said it could not be done based upon.
But it was not done, Franklin. It was not done.
What do you mean?
What do you mean
it wasn't done?
Hold on, remember this. Just give me a second.
Yes.
The government said that they would do it revenue neutral, meaning it would not cost the country $1. Was that the way it was promised?
No, that was debated because I'm saying to you that the numbers. I remember the numbers. Of course, I don't remember all the numbers right now, but I remember the numbers being put forward, which were discussed.
That they would move the tax threshold to 1.5 revenue neutral, meaning it would not cost.
I don't remember that detail.
I am reminding you. Yes,
I don't remember that detail. I remember that there was discussion about how much it would cost.
The threshold cost us $34 billion. It was not supposed to cost us anything. Remember that. I also want to remind Jamaica.
Before you move, I want you to go. Before you move, I want you to remember and go look it up. That the opposition said it could not be done based on the economy.
Neutral, yes, we said that.
No. That's
Carlo,
not,
you go do your research, Franklin.
Carlo,
do your research.
I will do my research as well, but that's not my memory on it. That's not my memory on it.
Carlo, no, but Franklin has it right, Carlo, because what was said was that it could not be done at all without destroying the economy. It was not whether it was revenue neutral or whether it was. They said it was a reckless plan that would destroy the economy. That was the word of the opposition, and the opposition stated. No, Carlo, we heard you. No, let me say this.
It cost us $34 billion.
Carlo, this comment from the opposition at the time, which was the opposition at the time, which is now the current government, was that we can put in an income tax threshold of $1.5 million. I will agree. Let me finish this now. I will agree with you. Their initial plan to fund it was not met, and they had to phase it in. But to suggest that it was, the original claim from the PNP was that it was simply not feasible. Not whether it was revenue neutral, not whether it was. It was that it was simply not feasible, and that the economy would collapse if it had been done. That was the argument from the PNP at the time, sir.
Argument, but I'm saying to you, the promise was that it would be revenue neutral. It was not delivered revenue neutral. It cost the country.
We know it was not delivered revenue neutral, so we're not going to keep going over that part because we know it was not delivered revenue neutral. I don't know who said it would be revenue neutral, but as I said, I don't remember that. No, I'm hearing you, and we're going to move on, but I don't remember that aspect of it.
Let me move on to the next one. I heard a caller tell you a while ago that the government must take ownership for this economy. You cannot take ownership for something you did not build. Remember, between 2007 and 2012, the GLP administration led by Bruce Golding, the House leader at the time was Andrew Holness, wrecked this economy when they told us that the recession would not affect us. In fact, Audley Shaw said we would benefit from the recession, and they took the wrong loan from the IMF, thus taking us out of the financial market. No multilateral.
Since we're so close to the end, and I know that you have a lot to say. Two quick things. My position is that the economy as it is now, the government should take ownership of it because it has done a lot of work since it came to office. B, hold on. B, it's a discussion. B, there was, I was just pointing it out to one of the callers. There was that period when 2008-9, when the economy was on its knees, and Audley Shaw did say that the recession was not expected to hurt Jamaica. He did say that. But I'm saying that since 2016, it is without dispute that the government has made several significant economic moves and strengthened the pillars of the society, economic pillars, and they should take credit for it. What I don't understand is why they have such a difficulty trying to sell that message and to keep focus on that message of the economic gains.
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Yes.
A foundation of a house is never been seen as being beautiful. But the people who work on the house, who are there from day one, know that when you put on a solid foundation, then you can go 10 and 12 story. So all the climb that the government is climbing, and let's not say that they are not climbing, but it is on the back of that heavy lifting by Portia Simpson Miller and Peter Phillips and Mark Golden, who basically had to went on their knees and beg the Black Caucus of the United States to get us, not to get the IMF even to talk to us. So when I hear some people talking about PNP mash up the country every time, it was the GLP that wrecked the economy.
All right, caller. It's 8 o'clock, caller. We have to wrap up.
I know you have to wrap up because this is not.
No, caller. You
man, it's time.
You can
wrapping up.
You can call me and chat, but right now it's 8 o'clock.
But you had a good run, you know. You must say that. You had a good run.
All right, everyone, it's 8 o'clock and it's time to wrap up. I thank super producer Dana Davey, my tech up Andrew Glenn Anderson, my friends and compatriots in the news and production department led by the capable Cara Powell. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
I'm Franklin McKnight.
Have a good evening. Nationwide